Yep.
It is.
In a second.
All right, we'll call this regular scheduled session on the 12th day of April 2022 of fiscal court into order, and we'll start out with an invocation from Magistrate Jason.
Our dear, kind, gracious Heavenly Father, we are grateful to be gathered here today to do Thy will in Boyle County. We ask that You will impart wisdom on us, that we will do things that the people of this town are asking of us. We ask that You will bless those that are not here, we ask that You will put a blessing upon us, that we will make wise decisions, and that You will bless those around the world that are suffering, that they will be under your gracious eye, that You will keep them out of harm's way. We ask for a special blessing of those in Ukraine that are suffering this unjust war, and that You will help them and continue to give them the wherewithal to fight off this oppressor. Please bless our men and women that respond to fire and to emergencies, and especially those that serve in our armed forces that keep this country free. Heavenly Father, we ask that You will help us this day, and we say these things in the name of Thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. And if you'll join me with our pledge of allegiance to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, next on the agenda is that we review and approve our prior meeting minutes, and everybody has that in their iPads.
Make a motion we accept it.
Second.
Motion to accept the minutes from the previous meeting made by Magistrate Short and seconded by Magistrate Cullen. Is there any discussions, corrections? Yes, sir.
I'm a little confused in the Bill Nichols section after the 19,000, but this will support 140 emails for the county. Is that number correct?
Email accounts.
Email accounts.
So we ought to add that word.
That will add the word accounts.
Yes.
With that correction, is there anything else?
No, sir.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign, and the motion carries unanimously. Thank you. All right. All right.
Does that include the special call meeting? I'll make a motion to approve the special call meeting.
Support it.
Okay, all right.
Second.
We got a motion to approve the special call meeting minutes, and it's seconded by Magistrate Gay and seconded by Magistrate Cullen. Is there any discussion on those minutes? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign, and that motion carries unanimously. Thank you. All right, now we're ready for Mariah.
Okay. There were a couple changes this morning, and we were having some technical difficulties, so I made some hard copies just to make sure that everybody was able to see. We had 2 central bank bills added in and a vet services bill for animal control. We had to create a new line item for it, so those will be where it's in alphabetical order.
You know what line they was on?
Yes, as we say, so if you go to page 3, you'll see the 2 central bank, and those will show you the line items that they're on, and then the town and country is on page 14, and that'll show you the line item that it is in as well. There's 2 town and country line items. The one that's zeroed out is a mistake. That's going to come off completely, but the one that's 409 is vet services for animal control.
I understand, and Jason, I think you picked up on this. There was a bill to be paid to KBT.
Yes, and that has come off. We have deleted that. and
Thank you.
corrected that.
Thank you.
So that changes our total for bills to be paid to $1,067,442.01. And then the total for standing orders that have been paid out comes to $378,541.97.
I'll make the motion, we approve the bills.
Second it?
All right, we have a motion to approve the bills by Magistrate Gay. Who seconded that, excuse me? Magistrate Short. Discussion on the bills as presented. Any questions, comments? Yes, sir, John.
Well, the credit card, since we started the credit card not long ago, the new system, are those bills going to appear in this list for us, or will they be listed separately for our attention and knowledge? How will that be handled? And is it going well? I know we had a hard time getting Mr. Short registered last time, and I don't think it was the credit card that created the issue. But how's the credit card program going since it's new and we're just getting into it? Is it going well and everybody's?
I think it's working extremely well.
Okay.
We just want to, we're going to be a good watchdog to make sure that the expenditures on this meet the resolution that was signed by the court, and that's for travel and court travel and expenses as related to the performance of their official duties.
So where will we see those bills? Will that be part of this?
You should be able to see them on there, John.
Okay.
Central Bank is the actual.
Central Bank?
Yes, Central
Okay.
Bank is the credit card.
Okay, I just wanted to be sure that we knew where they were going to appear, since we're gonna be approving those, so, thank you.
I saw that on there when I was kinda through it.
Okay,
Does that answer your
that was a
question?
credit, that was a credit. Yeah, just catching up.
Okay. All right, is there any more questions, comments, or discussions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign, and the motion carries unanimously. Thank you. All right, Darlene, we are now at the point where we can make budget and cash transfers.
Actually, one thing that was on there, it's not listed on the agenda, but there was a new line item added for veterinary services. So that needs to be approved.
I think that
And
that
I
was
gonna say
mentioned by Mariah
Okay,
in the
yeah.
bill.
So there was the new line item that would be approved, and then that, I added money to the line item, on the not the cash transfers. I have too many papers, sorry. I have one of everything. So, okay, so the budgeted cash transfers are where a couple of deposits just went in the wrong bank account. So they total $21,509.70, and I just need to get those moved up.
Make a motion, we approve.
Are these, are we sure these are correct accounts and amounts, or?
Mm-hmm. They are. They're quarterly payments, and the one was for 1 year, one was for another year. One was actually for last fiscal year, one was for this fiscal year. And they went into the joint jail bank accounts instead of the restricted accounts.
So the date of 10/13/2020
It's correct.
is correct, and then the 10/13/2021
is correct.
So we're just
They
correcting.
went into the joint jail bank account instead of the restricted bank account. The journal entry was correct on both cases, and they were entered in the proper place. They just were mistakenly put in the wrong bank account.
Did that cause any issues?
I've already talked to local government about last year's, and he said that it was fine. I needed to go ahead and get it done this way and get it moved over.
So
So
we're
that
moving both of those accounts to the 1020 then from the 10?
No, they're already in the 1020.
Okay.
The journal entries are correct. I just need to move the money.
We didn't second this, did we?
Nope.
No.
I'll second it.
Okay, there has been a motion made by Badger Cullen and seconded by Badger Gate. Now we can discuss. Questions? Any further questions?
Sorry for getting that
Chomping at the bit.
Okay, we have a motion to accept as presented for the purposes as presented for correction. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. All right. Next.
And apparently, I have everything except the list with the total of,
Hold on, I got it.
the 3 or 4 page list.
Helen?
No.
It's on the iPad, sorry.
Oh.
Do you have the number on that 3 or 4 page? I had everything, but apparently I'm missing that sheet for some reason. It must have gotten set aside.
I think it's in here.
Yeah, that's-
What is it you're looking for?
It was 3 or 4 pages long. And it was the transfer from one account to another.
Let's see. Finance packet, I got it right here. General fund. So the 248,000, is that what you're?
Yes, that's it. $248,051.30.
That came as a separate mailing.
Yeah, separate now, yeah. I'll make a motion to approve.
Now, what's this for?
Those are the to transfer amongst the line items.
So there's an ARPA fund, EMS fund, 911, Public Works, and general fund.
Yeah. They just make sure there's enough money in each appropriation line item to actually pay the bills.
Okay.
So,
There's a motion to approve the cash transfers. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Magistrate Short. The motion was made by Magistrate Cullen. Questions, comments, or discussions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. And the motion carries. Thank you. Okay.
and can I get an approval for that new line item that was set up so that it is official? And it was for 00152050385 Animal Control Veterinary Services.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Magistrate K. Wood, seconded by Magistrate Cullen. Questions, comments, or discussions on the new line item?
That was in the packet as well.
Yeah.
That was page 1.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, now we're moving into the consent calendar portion of the agenda for today. And what I'd like to do to start out today is on a positive note. And we have with us today Miss Vicki Goode from Perryville, Main Street, Perryville. And I think she has decided after many years to retire.
Yes.
She's taking early retirement.
Early retirement. How many years exactly?
almost
Or
getting
pretty
good.
close, Vicki.
14 years, 8 months, and a few days.
No hours.
In
Not
order
yet.
to surprise you
Depends on how long
with
the
the
meeting
court, I estimated a little bit on the heavy side. I said over 15 years of service, which I know is inclusive of more than just being executive director. But I want to read, if I may, and I'm going to stand up and go out to the middle to read this
Take a long way.
certificate of appreciation. And Vicki doesn't know anything about this today. There's another aspect of the reason why she's here. And but I want to read this certificate of appreciation. It says to Miss Vicki T. Goode, has provided Boyle County with over 15 years of service that supported the operations of Main Street Perryville to the benefit of Boyle County residents. As Executive Director of Main Street Perryville, her demonstrated dedication significantly benefited the function and historic preservation of the community associated with one of our nation's most historic Civil War battles. Ms. Goode worked with the Economic Development Partnership, the Boyle County Fiscal Court, the Perryville City Council, and the Commonwealth of Kentucky to effectively promote and maintain the economic and tourism viability of downtown Perryville, and specifically Merchants Row. She frequently would assist the Boyle County Convention and Visitors Bureau with county promotions at the State Fair. Vicki was instrumental in bringing businesses to Merchants Row and helped develop fundraising activities such as the Turtle Derby to aid in restoring and maintaining historic properties around Perryville. Mrs. Goode's actions reflect great credit upon herself, the City of Perryville, and Boyle County. This award is presented in unanimous appreciation by the Boyle County Fiscal Court in the 180th year of Boyle County being historically bold on the 12th day of April in 2022. Signed by Judge Howard P. Hunt III. Would you like to say anything? Do what?
You know me, I never want to talk about it. Ever. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Let me get in there too, Judge.
Some guy that.
Do what? Oh, yeah. We gotta get Tom in here. He's a magistrate from your district.
Here, let's get the map in behind with that small blue section.
Okay.
I knew that was.
Turn it around so they can see this. There you go.
Thank you.
Tom, take 2 steps to your left. 1, 2.
Never to the left.
There you go.
Never to the left.
Thank you all very much.
You're so welcome.
I really appreciate this more than you'll know. I've
I
been
am.
proud to work with the Boyle County Fiscal Court, the Boyle County EDP, and the City of Perryville City Council. It's been a pleasure to be a part of this. I mean, it's something I've always wanted to do, and I wanted to go in the stores instead of look in the windows. Main Street Perryville, and I want to welcome visitors and guests to learn more about the community, and I think we've done a pretty good job saving the buildings, at least for right now, and hope that that continues on because it's a very important part of Kentucky and Boyle County. And I just want to thank everyone for working with us, supporting us, and making all this possible. So thank you all very much.
Thank you.
And I'd like to comment on Vicki. When she says she's in those storefronts, folks, she makes those visits, she recruits volunteers, she twists our arm to go to the state fair and puts together the entire operation for the state. Hard. And, thank you, Vicki, for your tremendous service.
I appreciate it. And now, taking my place is going to be Huff. She's going to be the new Executive Director of Main Street Perryville, and I think you all will enjoy working with her. She's very gifted, talented, loves history, loves Perryville, and will do a wonderful job continuing Main Street Perryville on.
I visited yesterday with Allie, and Allie, tell us about yourself like you did yesterday.
Born and raised in Danville. My family still resides there. When my husband and I got married, he said, we're living in Perryville, and I said, okay. I worked at the Perryville Farmers Bank for 10 years, so the community welcomed me in, so I'm a true Perryvillian now. Was a history major in college, so I have historical background to back up the love and preservation of our town. I have young kids, so the future of Perryville is near and dear to my heart because I want it to continue for my kids and their kids and future generations because it's very important to me and to our community. Thank you. I'm excited.
Have you met Kendall yet?
Yes.
Just okay.
On Zoom.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Well, good.
We met
Hopefully,
everyone on Zoom.
Well, hopefully you all will work, a lot together.
Real closely.
Take care.
Yes. I'm excited to strengthen those relationships with those who would help benefit Perryville, and I'm excited about it. Thank you all.
Sounds good, thank you.
Thank you.
You all feel free to leave if you want. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you, everyone.
I wouldn't blame you.
Get to work.
All right, Kendall, you're up next.
Well, since we're talking about Perryville, I'll start with something else on my list here. Got 2 new hires at the CBB office. I've got an assistant who starts Monday. Her name is Candace Arnold, and she lives in Perryville. She had worked at the visitor center, or actually in the gift shop there at Goldsmith up until November, left and went to work at the bank in Perryville, and a full-time job came open, and she was very interested and very passionate about being part of the CBB office. So she starts on Monday, will be full-time employee. A lot of things she can help me out with that I've been having to handle, brochure distribution, just dealing with a lot of the administrative tasks in the office. So I'm excited to get her on board. And also hired Stephen Klein to work in the gift shop. He's working on the behalf of the CVB Wednesday through Saturday, and Monday, Tuesday, McDowell House has an employee in there. He's from Danville, knows a lot about the area. The building doesn't have a lot of insulation, so you can hear conversations all over the building. So anytime somebody comes in, I can hear him talking people up, telling them about things to see and do. So he's a good ambassador for us to have downstairs.
That's excellent.
One other thing, I spoke to the city commission last night and announced this. I've been talking for several weeks with a group that's wanting to hold a statewide event in Danville. It's the Gold Wing Road Riders Association of Kentucky. They hold an event called the District Blast, which is their annual get-together, and they have riders from all over the state that will
Folks
come in.
might not know about the Gold Wing and what they're on 2 wheels. So.
Yeah, it's a Honda Gold Wings, high-end motorcycles. But they'll have their District Blast for this year out at the showroom, August 25th to 27th. So all the riders from Kentucky, and then they'll also invite Tennessee, Indiana, all the surrounding states to come in. They'll be based at the showroom, but they'll get out in the community. I'll probably route some rides for them. They'll take them down to Forkland, out to Perryville, get them a stop at Bud and Cheryl's for some ice cream.
There you go.
And I think they may be wanting to hold maybe a public event downtown.
August, what the date again?
August 25th to 27th. It's Thursday through Saturday. Technically they wrap up at 5 Saturday, but they're going to have a rider's course on Sunday out there for those who want to stay, so we could have them, some of them for as long as 3 nights. A good thing about it is they pick a town and usually stay there a minimum of 3 years, so we should have them back in 23, 24. They were in Cave City before and they stayed there for 4 years, so we could actually get them for longer than 3 years, but usually it's a minimum 3-year commitment.
You might have mentioned it, I might have missed it. How many states do they represent, or is it
Well, it's just Kentucky, but usually they go to each other's events. So we'll see people from Tennessee and Ohio and different states. They go to their events, and when they're there, they hand out flyers about their blast, and they'll advertise it amongst their own riders. So that may also lead to a second event. I was emailing with the event organizer who said that they've been in touch with a related group who found out they were coming here, and they're interested in coming to Danville as well. And I've not touched base with them yet, but she acted like it was kind of a done deal. So hopefully I'll have some information about that soon and can make an announcement on who they are and when they're going to be here. Been working on short-term rental compliance, Airbnb, VRBO. Julie Wagner and Lynn Ty, we sat down one day and kind of figured out which short-term rentals we had out there that weren't on our radar, we weren't collecting the tax from, hadn't really had any interaction with. So Julie did some detective work and figured out some addresses and information for us. So I sent out packets to about a dozen or so, introducing myself, the CDB office, what we do, their obligation to pay the transient tax, and different ways we can help, promote their properties. So those were just sent out last week. I've heard back from one already. She gave me a call on Saturday, good conversation. So we're just trying to build relationships with them and also get them into compliance. Another project we've been working on is brochure distribution. We've sent out about 4,000 brochures to Kentucky Welcome Centers, different points of contact where visitors would stop in seeking brochures. We've mailed another 1,400 or so brochures directly to different people who requested them. This has pretty much depleted my brochure supply, so I've got an order of 5,000 more brochures in the works right now. And once those come in, I'm going to turn those over to Candace, and she will be responsible for sending those out and working with different places we're not affiliated with right now. A lot of places will accept our brochures. We mail them to them, different state parks. We can mail them directly to the welcome centers. We just have to pay for the shipping there, and we'll just keep them stocked up and keep those new brochures in circulation. Last thing I wanted to mention, you may have seen this in the Advocate Messenger, but glad to talk about it again. We applied for an EDA grant through the State Department of Tourism, and we've been awarded $26,500 to spend on different marketing and advertising projects that we had to submit in advance, and we can use that money between now and 2023. So I'm going to use the services of a travel writer monthly who will be writing a blog post for our website. She sent me her first one yesterday, which I posted. She'll also have interaction with travel writers for different publications to try to pitch us for a story on different topics. So we've already started engaging with her. We're going to spend some money updating our website. There's a lot of information on there that needs to be updated, new photos, new information. So we're going to start working on that pretty soon.
I'd say, I don't know if Bill, if you've worked with Bill, but we're updating our website as well. And he might be able to provide some service to you just to get you hooked up with Civic Plus or whatever.
Okay.
All right. We're using, so.
Okay. Let's see. I'm also going to use some of the funds to attend group travel and motor coach shows. This is where all the motor coach tour bus operators come together, and you sit down. It's like speed dating. You sit down and you have 6 minutes to tell your story and provide them information and lure them into your city to bring a busload of folks. So I think there's one coming up this fall I'm going to try to attend in northern Kentucky. There's different companies that do this, so I'm trying to break into that. I think we've got plenty to offer for motor coach and group travel folks to come in. Send them out to Perryville, Distillery, downtown. I mean, there's just plenty to do.
You may not know this, but 2 years ago we did exactly that. We had probably 60 to 70 from the association here in Danville, and we took 2 motor coaches, 2 big, were they 40 packs or 50 packs buses, went to Perryville, went to the distilleries, went to several different locations, stopped, talked about the history of Constitution Square, some other places, and we had lunch at one of the local restaurants, and it was a huge success. And I would advocate trying to bring them back to Danville, because everybody was on that, and I was fortunate enough to participate, was very impressed with what we had to offer from this county historically.
Okay.
Related to that, there was also a train, and what was that, 6 or 8 years ago when the train came through? Dust off that one, because that'll be in your files somewhere there. That was a tremendous success as well. And we can triangulate all the way out to Forkland and its museum, Perryville. And by the way, separate but certainly important, as soon as you can, get out and meet Brian Bush and see the film that they updated from 15 years ago when my best buddy came in and we watched it at the battlefield. That film is just extraordinary.
Okay.
It's twice as long and twice as good. So.
Yeah, I do need to get up there and meet them. I've been sharing all their information about upcoming events.
Yeah, thank you.
And do you have any contact information for who the tour company was that?
I'll have to go back and see, Kendall. I don't right now off the top of my head.
Okay, that'd be helpful. Just to
They
touch base with
they
them.
were mostly from the northeast. I remember that specifically, like in the Maryland, Virginia, Pennsylvania area, New York, and that area. They were mostly from up there.
Okay, all right.
See how they never mentioned Delaware.
Do you work with the state?
Delaware.
Do you work with the state wildlife Frankfurt group?
I've not worked with them since I've been here. I did a few times when I was in Lawrenceburg on a couple things.
They show up from time to time at our conferences, and the breakout group, they have some wonderful pictures of trails, fishing, all those things with Harrington Lake and the trails that were built here that could be a part of a social media website?
The nature trail out past Mitchellsburg, just between Mitchellsburg and
And our PBA wife's husband, I think, works for them.
Eric Gibson,
He's director.
my next door neighbor, Eric Gibson,
Gibson.
and he is over 140 law enforcement, fish and wildlife folks.
But
So,
he's a great resource for
Absolutely.
communication with those folks. And I have sent them, indirectly, I've sent a message that you may be contacting.
Okay.
But, very nice fellow. What do you foresee is the impact of the Bourbon Trail to us? Since we haven't been in it that long, but, other people have.
Potentially very big, especially, I don't know what Luca Mariana, what their timeline is or when they're gonna start having visitors.
Could have been a year ago, but they got held up, so.
Yeah, but having 2 distilleries will definitely benefit this area. The main thing is getting them to go someplace else besides the distillery, because a lot of times they're on a loop and they'll stop and then
Sure.
head on out. So the idea is to work with the distillery to get them to reroute them downtown for lunch or to stay here. This would be a good stopping point in between Frankfurt and Lebanon. So retaining that traffic that's already coming through is important.
make sure, if you haven't met Emily Toadvine,
Yeah.
make sure. Yeah,
Yeah,
good.
I've worked with her a few times.
Great.
Yeah.
A good option to do that, and I was actually gonna mention this anyway, but what's plans with Grayson's Tavern actually making it an actual event happening space?
I know there's that committee that's been meeting for a while. I met with them in December. They've not sent me another meeting invite, so I'm not sure when they're meeting.
While you were
Monday of the
vacationing, I met
First
with
Monday.
them, and that's front and center, and got it down as part of my report.
Reach out to Tom. But, you know, some of these bourbon tours come through, whatever, a bigger one, you could funnel them there,
Yeah.
have some tastings, and then they could kind of walk around downtown too.
Yeah, yeah. I know that when I was in the meeting in December, that was discussed, somehow setting up tastings there. But yeah, I need to get back to one of those meetings and figure out where they are right now, because that was the only update I'd ever received.
I'll forward you any invites I get. Tom and I are on that committee.
Yeah.
This is kind of a Dwayne thing, and I'm sorry to get you involved, but the door at the gift shop is very difficult, the front door.
Fixed it.
You got it fixed?
Yep.
Thank you, sir. I was trying to get in a couple of weeks ago, and it would be difficult for us.
Yeah, screws on the top hinge are loose.
Is that where it was?
Yeah,
Okay,
fine.
thank you. Thank you for getting that fixed.
Put a pull or push sign on there.
Use your shoulder. One other thing, a couple other things we're working on too. In the next month or so, there's going to be some filming in Danville and here in Boyle County. It's for a 30-minute episode for KET called Downstream that we're going to pay for through these grant funds. It's going to focus on our waterways and probably the still at Leeward Distillery, the Wilderness Trail, some other things. This will be filmed over a few days, and then it'll air probably later this year. It'll air at least 4 times on KET within a few months period, and then it'll continue to air. You know how KET shows go, they just continue to pop up year after year, so we'll get a lot of statewide publicity out of that. And along with the filming, they're going to provide us some of the video clips for our own use. So, pretty good deal for us. And the last thing we're going to use money for is professional photography. We're going to wait till the streetscape's done downtown in spring of 2023 and have a professional photographer come in and get us brand new shots from throughout the county for us to use for our website, advertising, social media, that kind of thing.
Sounds good, sounds good.
One more quick question off the record. You know Charlie Cameron,
Charlie Camp.
Lawrenceburg,
Yes. Good guy.
good guy.
All right, Kendall, thank you very much. Appreciate you coming in. That's a good report. Appreciate it. Thank you. All right, next we have Mr. Steve Hunter from Planning and Zoning. Steve?
Thank you. I'll start with a couple trivia questions. Hearing about the Gold Wing stuff's pretty interesting to me because I'm a motorcyclist way back, still am, ride, and know about Gold Wings and Honda clubs, but my son, for 7 years, worked for the American Motorcycles Association, Pickerton, Ohio, which if you're not aware, everyone who rides a street bike pretty much is probably a member. And they have 425,000 members across America. They're a large organization, and he ran the pro racing division of American Motorcyclists till he left, but that's tip number one. Number two, Mike Tyson once fell asleep on the Gold Wing when he had it on cruise control and wrecked the Gold Wing. If you ever look that up, that was an interesting news story back in the day, that they're that smooth that you could probably go asleep and put it on cruise control. And he actually crashed.
I had a friend of mine that rode a Gold Wing from Tucson to Tombstone, asleep on Interstate 10. That's 80 miles.
They just go.
Just
Yeah.
never.
You could just.
He was like this asleep.
I think good road.
It was straight. It was straight.
I'll tell you a third one then. I've got an RV, and I've got a buddy that swears he's left the seat of the RV and gone back and used the restroom and came back out. Straight as an arrow. You can go back here and take a break and get back in the seat. Now, I've never tried that, but on the East Coast. So, all right. Well, we're here to talk about this Planning Commission proposal that was sent your way. We'll just back up real quick and refresh everyone's memory that there was a rumor about a solar farm coming to Boyle County, somewhat confirmed, but at that time it was just more speculation. The county did a moratorium, directed P&Z to get to work on some regulation revisions. Then the moratorium, you guys might have extended it, I'm not sure. There were two bills going through the legislature that were doing some different things. One of those bills is got through both houses, but is in the conference step. House Bill 392 ended up making it through the House to the Senate. The Senate did a committee substitute, changed some amendments, so it's at the conference step. It's not on the legislature reconvenes tomorrow and I think Thursday for the last 2 days. It's not in their orders of the day, but it's still in that conference pile, concurrence pile, I'm sorry. And so they could get pulled out and ratified. Either way, if it does or doesn't, it really doesn't affect what's in front of you. But we watched that legislation over the last 3 months to make sure we understood what the legislature was doing with the state law as it relates to the solar farms. And so if that bill does pass, it adds decommissioning to the state process, changes the ad hoc committee membership slightly, but the state law is pretty much still intact from one end to the other. If it doesn't pass, we'll have the state law, which is pretty complicated if you dug in there and read it. So what the Planning Commission did starting in January was to...
Steve, one moment on that. From 26 years of experience and with the number of vetoes that they're going to be considering in that limited 2 days where they cannot unplug the clock like they used to, I'm not at all optimistic that that's going to come out of conference committee and pass. So that puts more of a burden on us, doesn't it?
No.
It really doesn't?
Not at all. I just said it doesn't change anything we're doing. So.
But there are some stipulations we might want that are not in the state law is what I'm saying.
No. Not from what the Planning Commission sent you, no.
Okay.
So I'll explain that.
Let him finish.
What's in the state bill? If you dig in the state law, it's very complicated. You know, it's like 9 pages of language that you have to go through to cite a facility in the state of Kentucky. It's KRS 278-700 and some change. I don't know off the top of my head, but there was a lot of proposals thrown in there. But what's in that state law is basically the local. If you have local planning and zoning, you can defer from the state setbacks that are in the law. You have authority, and we already did that. That was in our current law. Okay. And it said that's the decommissioning issue about reclamation, all that. That verbiage got put in both bills. We were never considering that in our local ordinance. There's no circumstance we were considering that. The Planning Commission made that pretty clear. That process is very cumbersome, beyond our capability, or as a 2-person staff to talk about reclamation of property 20, 30, 50 years in the future, hold developers money in the millions of dollars. That's at a minimum a state process, if not a federal process it needs to be. So there was we talked about it a lot at the meetings. We had over 8 hours of discussion on this. Decommission was brought up a lot, and the Planning Commission made a firm decision that will not be part of this proposal. Now, if you all want to add it, I think I'll explain to you in a second. You guys can put anything you want into this, but the Planning Commission did not recommend that. If it goes in the state law, great. The state can take that on or figure that out. If it does not, it's not something we're recommending be in the local zoning ordinance. It's just not something we can accommodate as a staff or as a community. It's just too big. To think that there's going to be a 500 or 1,000 acre facility built someday, the way they're being built, and somehow someone's going to go in 20, 30 years and take that back to its natural state, it's just not something the Planning Commission can do, is in the business of doing, has the resources to do. It's just not, again, if we build a factory tomorrow and it goes out, goes dark, we're not in the business of going back there and taking properties back to their natural state. It's just something we can't do. So if it stays in state law, great, it'll be a good addition. If not, nothing else in state law really affects us because it defers to us, and that's what we've done in this page and a half. So I do think it has a chance to come out of the committee because they pulled half of those out for tomorrow's orders of the day, and they left just a few more. So I think each day they're trying to put in the vetoes, the other bills they want to consider, and they're just pulling a handful of those out. And the reason I say this, Tom, or Magistrate Ellis, is it passed the House pretty overwhelmingly and the Senate, and the committee substitute was very positive. So there's not a lot of controversy in that. It just had to go through that process. But it passed both houses with very little opposition. So I kind of got a feeling that it must be on their radar and something that they might want to bring out. But you're right, there's just a lot to do in the next 2 days. So let's go with this real quick. Planning Commission met in January, and at that point we discussed an option that we called the hybrid option, and we'll just leave it at that. I met with the advisory committee about a lot of technical things, and then we came back the next month and discussed it more. And at that meeting in February, it was discussed of going what we call an industrial option, and that's what's in front of you. Planning Commission kind of broke it into 3 options, and the option that actually got approved and was recommended to send to fiscal court is what we're going to call the industrial option. And it was discussed quite a bit at the 3rd meeting, an ag option, industrial option, a hybrid option. I know Magistrate Wood was at most of the, if not all 3 months meetings. A lot of discussion, again, over 8+ hours of discussion for just a small section here. But the Planning Commission ended up voting affirmatively to send you this recommendation. And it's pretty easy to see what we have, because what's in red is what's new, and what's in black and white is what we already had. And again, we already had a definition of a merchant electric generating facility. That's on 545. That's right out of the state law. And let me start with this so we'll make sure the magistrates are clear. We're not talking about solar that people put in their backyard, or like Daniel has in there, or a farmer might put in their farm. This is a facility that's regulated by the state where they're selling power wholesale into an electrical grid. So it's a wholesale power provider, and
It's a power plant.
it's this definition right here. This is KRS 2787. That is the definition under that characteristics. We read it exact.
This is the one that is dated March 23. Is that the one?
I've got the one you should have went out in your packet. Says public hearing draft.
Yeah, March 23rd.
Yeah.
March, so,
Yeah,
okay,
you got
I just
several.
want to be sure I'm
Yeah.
reading the right one.
And so that stuff that was already there, we already had in our ordinance. The only local standard we had was a 500-foot setback from residential uses, zones, or districts. And what we ended up doing was putting some extra language in, and this is going to look familiar to you because a lot of this came from the distillery language we used. We created that exemption for them out in the county for setbacks, site plans, fire protection. So this went kind of down the same kind of checklist, and you can see there's now a host of rules that have to be kind of adhered to if a facility is to locate in Boyle County. So we described that they have, first they have to follow this KRS and all the provisions there, and it's a very cumbersome process to get one cited through the state. The one that's in Lancaster right now, south of Lancaster, Turkey Creek, took over 2 years to get through the state approval process, multiple steps. You get on the Public Service Commission's website, look at the case log, and there's a lot of stuff to go through the state. But again, the state law defers for us to have other local legislation, and that's what we're doing.
And many states right now are trying to fast track the process. So while it might have took Turkey Creek 2 years, in a year they may fast track a lot of these things where it takes a lot less time. So
well, unfortunately, all 31 projects in Kentucky have been stalled because they are so backlogged in Kentucky. The latest project,
Whole country, PJM.
over 100. There's 31 projects actually on their list right now that's going through the citing process, and over to the judge's point, over 100 that They're not even going to accept their applications at this point. The last one that's in that list is Logan County. There's a 1,400-acre facility that's being proposed just west of Russellville. That's going, so once you're in the process, there's a lot of steps to get through the process. There's new applications that are kind of held up to even be filed. So at this point, we've heard about a project 2 or 4 maybe in Boyle County, not sure. So we're going to have our rules hopefully in place if you guys put something forward to catch whatever happens in the future. So what happens with this industrial option is the Planning Commission basically made the decision that the facilities need to be located in an industrial zone. That was what they ended up voting on. And then from the next page there on page 546, interesting enough, from item C down through the rest of the red, that was the same language in all the options. When we had a hybrid option, we had an industrial option, we had an agriculture option. The language was exactly the same. The only difference was in the industrial option, the facilities have to be located in an industrial zone. So the standards are pretty straightforward. They have to do a site development plan. There's setbacks from residences and roads and churches, and there's landscape requirements, storage issues, construction entrance, road width issues, fire protection issues, floodplain issues, kind of on and on. So a lot of this is the same language we put in the distillery verbiage for the rick house storage out in the county. So it's not new language in the ordinance.
Right, and we talked about this the other day, Steve, but can you address, because one of my thoughts on this all along has been the conditional use permit and not making this such a high bar with the flume, needing the flume change.
This gets down in the weeds, what Commissioner Gay's bringing up. So our options were to do kind of 4 things. What's that?
Magistrate.
Magistrate.
He's a former commissioner.
Yeah, former commissioner, magistrate. He's both, Fred. So, yeah, lots of options. All uses can happen by right. So you can just allow things to happen with rules. Some things sometimes require a zone change, which in this case, the assumption would be that would happen because most of the property is in an ag zone. There's always an option we can do what's called a conditional use permit. That means we're not changing the zone, but you still have to go before a board to get an approval, and there's rules. And then there's a site development plan, which is an engineering exercise that goes before the Planning Commission with standards. The Planning Commission's thinking was this, that the CUP option, although it sounds good, it's really a problem because A, you don't change the zone, but you're sending these applications on dual tracks. So an applicant would have to go to the Board of Adjustments and go to the Planning Commission and go to the state. And you're setting up dual appeal tracks if it was contested, where we'd be in circuit court on multiple applications to possibly defend. And the preference was just send them all to the Planning Commission. We're requiring a site development plan, which is a public hearing, but it's a back-end look at an application. And a zone change would be a front-end look at an application, but they'd both be going to the Planning Commission. So they'd kind of be looking at it front-end and back-end. If you do the CUP, you're sending it to the Board of Adjustments, a different board, with different criteria under the law to review it. It's a whole different kind of standard they have to look at. And then, which goes first, P&Z, BOA, or one or the other? It could be a very confusing process and cause us a lot of headache. There's very few things we have in Boyle County where we send them on those dual tracks to the 2 different boards.
Right.
So the CUP was just sort of taken off the table because the preference was to make them go through the Planning Commission at a minimum of a site plan approval, and then ultimately now it's probably going to require a zone change. So you'd have a zone change and site plan, but they'd be going to the same board.
We can also discuss too along this, because I kind of thought about this at first as well. But there's only so many exceptions you can make for allowing things to happen on agricultural land. We talked about it in one of the meetings, and my concern with this process has always kind of been, if we keep making exceptions on what can happen in agricultural land, when we go to court, we could very easily lose and jeopardize our planning and zoning status. Because if we keep making these exceptions, and the courts are going to say, well, you made this exception here, why didn't you make it here? So there's very few things that you can technically are allowed to do on agricultural land. But if we keep intervening and making planning and zoning less effective, we may not even have it, and then we have issues like we have in neighboring counties where they don't have planning and zoning, and things are just thrown on top of land, and there's no say in it. So that's kind of been my look at this the whole way. It has nothing to do with what somebody can do with their land or whatever. It just has to do with protecting our planning and zoning to make sure that we don't turn into a Wild West over here.
And let me get down in the weeds on the CUP a little further as a planner. One of the main problems is there's a perception out there it means more than it does. There was a statewide model that went around that everyone got in 2020 that, hey, the way we handle this is we should do a CUP, conditional use permit, and it went to everyone. But the nature of a conditional use permit in the statute is conditional. We do conditional use permits so you can cut hair in your house or do an Airbnb. But the uses are transitional uses or short-term uses. In fact, in the state law, it says every year we're supposed to go back out and make sure these things are even still in function. And if not, we're supposed to revoke them. That's our job under CUPs. The idea that a solar farm is going to come in under a 20-year lease or some long-term project, it's not a conditional use by nature. It's a use that's now there for at least 20 years or maybe longer. That's what we do in those type of things, whether you're building a factory or a shopping center or solar farm or apartments, we stick them in a zone and make them follow rules. Conditional use permits, again, are really year to year, and even more down in the weeds, they're really parcel to parcel approvals. So this idea that somehow we would have a 1,000-acre conditional use over 20 parcels, I'm not sure really flies under the state law, but that's to be determined. The other counties that have done the conditional use, I think, are painting themselves into a corner with this kind of annual one-year review in the state law. Number two, there's been some talk that, well, that's a better option because you're not changing the zoning, therefore it can go back to agriculture. Well, that's not accurate either, because agriculture is exempt from all districts. So whether we're industrial, residential, commercial, you can farm in any of those districts. So the industrial labeling doesn't mean a farm can't come back. I mean, we've got farmland all over this county that's zoned commercial, industrial, that's being used today. So this idea you have to be CUP, if we zone it somehow, we've made it where we can't go back, that's not accurate. So we picked the industrial option with the site plan requirement, which are 2 local public hearings, in addition to there will be a state public hearing. If the fiscal court requests a hearing, you guys can have another hearing through the state review if you choose to under the state law.
So is there a way to just do because again, I'm concerned about the fact that it's going to be a high bar to do a flume change for any of these, because they're going to be, most likely, they're not going to be contiguous to any other industrial properties, etc. That will be a tough
zone change
process.
Yeah,
so is there a way to do because I like the site development plan, is there a way to do that process without having to do the
let's
zone
do this.
change?
Let's do this first. So the Planning Commission sent you all this recommendation. This was their recommendation. What happens now is you guys can concur with the recommendation. This isn't like a zone change. You're not under the 90-day clock. You guys, this is changing the zoning ordinance, which is your law. You guys can concur with this recommendation. You could just reject it, say start over. You guys could modify it. You guys could wordsmith it.
Should probably start with a motion first.
Yeah, well, whatever you are going to do, but this is what the Planning Commission sent you. To your point, is the zone change was one of the steps. The agriculture option was really the same language, it just didn't involve one of these paragraphs. It was almost that simple.
So if we took out B,
you'd be what our option 2 was, but that's not what the Planning Commission sent you by way of their.
But we could decide that we
you
want
guys
to remove B.
This is why it comes to the fiscal court last, because if you guys remember back on the Airbnb discussion, we sent you all a proposal that was a countywide proposal. Y'all took it this way, and Danville kind of took it this way, and Junction kind of stuck with the recommendation. So at the end of the day, that's what happens with zoning ordinance amendments. Ultimately, you all get to make the final decision on this recommendation or reject it. And the judge and I talked a little bit. You know, he's one of the most knowledgeable people in the county on this because he's been researching this, and he's told you guys he somewhat has to not be involved, but we've talked because we're both learning a lot. And so we've been watching Mercer County quite a bit, who's been going through this and have a big project right on their doorstep. Their fiscal court's gone through 3 or 4 proposals. P&Z sent them language and they rejected them. And they just recently did a first reading on a proposal. I think last week we talked, and I think I sent that to Julie. So Mercer County's in the same place we are, but the fiscal court rejected about 3 versions of this, kept sending them back. One of them was really complicated. Their last version is kind of an industrial option and a CUP and a site plan is where they sort of landed. And they put all the decommissioning stuff in there. They just took the statewide model and add. So I wish them luck on that. They've got 9 pages of regulation, and what we're proposing is kind of keep it simple, stupid approach.
Because the way I'm reading this, it looks like if you do that, I guess we're calling that the ag option.
That was the proposal, yes.
Okay, that the site plan process, that's a pretty involved process.
Absolutely.
Correct?
So you don't see what's required, but a site development plan is an item A through double L checklist. But it's full engineering, but it happens on the back end of a project. Where a zone change would happen on the front end in a more conceptual deal.
And that's where we get to put a lot of our community standards on it, right? You know,
Correct.
so we can make sure that it's not doing all the things we don't want it to do. And
Right,
it
the
doesn't.
site plans when we're actually going to see grading, drainage, you know, everything about the process happens at the site. It's a full set of engineered construction plans. That proposal was in every draft we had. And by the way, most of the counties around us didn't latch on to that like we did. So we think that's a win for us. And the reason why it's not that big a deal, that's what's got to happen at the state level too. So the companies know they have to do this engineering exercise with the state. And so that same document would probably be used in both jurisdictions.
You know, this is in addition to the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission and state mandates on the process for these projects that require almost an extensive environmental impact analysis on drainage, watershed, sinkholes. There's a lot of things you can't do with just the land. And it's spelled out through the evaluation process, which is the PJM evaluation process, which stands for Pennsylvania, Jersey, and Maryland. That's the East Coast version. There is a Central USA and a West Coast version that is backed up, and they're not even taking the applications right now.
Yeah.
This project in Garrett County was at least 2 years.
2+ years, yeah.
2+ years old.
And there was 39 steps on the website of compliance measures, correspondence back and forth just to get that site approved in Garrett. And by the way, that's a 485 acre site, 50 megawatt facility. And they're building a new substation on that site too.
How's this really going to affect our farmers?
Well, I don't want to get into these philosophical issues here because we had farmers come testify. We had lots of people testify. We had a lot of discussion. You can attest to that. I think the farmers were talking about income substitution opportunities and how they talked about their leases and maybe even some dollar amounts snuck out here and there. What we know is there's maybe different projects, different companies, different lease approaches. We heard the last meeting about a particular farmer was talking specifically about the due diligence they're doing in their own lease. Planning Commission kind of had to steer clear of all that and just focus on land, what's a good process. None of the farmers objected to the standards we have in this ordinance. There was some concern about the zone change requirement.
That was the biggest concern.
Is
I
what we
remember
heard.
it was going through the process.
Of that front end review, not
Yeah.
any of these other standards.
That's what I heard.
That's what we heard, but the Planning Commission still went this way. At the end of the day, when you look at the way they're being constructed and the sheer enormity of them, the feel, they're an industrial use clearly. And
Yeah.
they feel they need to belong in an industrial zone. That's where the Planning Commission landed, but the farmers argued, we don't disagree, they feel and look like that. Let us skip that step and just do all the other stuff. That's kind
There
of
was consensus
lot of
on
discussion
the
on that.
industrial part of
Yeah.
it and discussion of it. However, the vote was 5-4. It was a
5-4 or 5-3-1.
Yeah,
The
it
minutes
was a
say
very
5-3-1
It
right
was a
now.
reasonably close
Yeah.
vote.
Yeah.
But if I may say, thank you for letting me know when y'all were doing it. Jason came to some of them.
Yeah, he's here. A lot of people
I
watch
wish
them.
you all could have heard the discussion. There was hours of discussion, excellent discussion, great points on both sides, great points brought up.
We beat it to
And,
death.
and we have received a letter of concerns. Some of these concerns to me may be in the lease that they signed,
That was
to be
talked
worked
about.
out, which I hope can be done because they make sense to me.
One of the most knowledgeable landowners was in your district, Mr.
I'd rather not.
Oh, we won't say, okay. Well, he came and
Well,
testified.
public record, he
I forget his
testified,
name
yeah.
off the top of my head, but he really got down into his lease and how they're working with the company. Another farmer showed up in the eastern part of the county again, talked about draft lease. And so I think where the planning commission lands, a lot of the stuff that was brought up about what maybe P&Z should do, we thought is really an individual lease situation that the landowners really should be working through, as opposed to thinking that we're going to be party to those private lease arrangements.
We just have to be very judicious on this, because in my district, I have a joining fence line of for and against from two different significant farmers. So we have to be very careful. And on that point, clarify for me that I'm saying this correctly. The ag/conditional use permit approach could be very litigious.
It was never considered.
Could be very litigious.
Well, for us, if you don't do the site plan, less likely if you were sending it to one board. Again, that's not what we're proposing. But our problem is, I think we're doing a disservice to our Board of Adjustments. Again, think about what they do every month. Most of the time they don't meet because we have no cases. They're doing variances, 5 foot here, 8 foot here. They're doing CUPs to cut hair in your house.
Not at
Do a
this
wedding
scale.
venue. But anything of this scale typically will always be at the planning commission, either through a zone change or a site plan. So the CUP just didn't fit, and on top of that, there's no standards in the state law how a CUP is evaluated. It's a conditional use permit. You come and argue what you're gonna do, and we figure out conditions and we just make them work. Hours of operation, parking. There's nothing in the state law that says what we evaluate those under. The site plan verbiage is very detailed, and the zone change is very structured in the state law, how they're evaluated, as 3 different options in the state law. So we just thought the zone change
It makes
to the magistrate
it
is
makes-
the highest bar.
Yeah, and it makes more sense, because if we start allowing industrial things to happen out on agricultural land, and then we pick and choose, we're not going to have a leg to stand on when they do go to court and fight it. I mean, these are power plants. They're industrial things, and I'm sorry the bar is set high, but you know there's a reason why the bar is set high, because you can't just pick and choose what's industrial and what's not industrial when it's actually industrial. When it walks like a duck and talks like a duck, it's a duck. So it's got to be zoned appropriately.
And there really wasn't any disagreement that it's
No.
really industrial. I mean, that was pretty well taken.
but
I just did the math, and in a week's time, I spent 2,552 miles in a car driving across this country, and I saw a lot of industrial solar fields, we'll call them. A lot. I mean, I went down from here down to Florida. I flew from Florida to over out to Idaho, and you can see them in the air as well when you're looking down. And then driving from Idaho all the way back to Kentucky, there was a lot, and there is no, and I know some of the recommendations that we have here, which I agree with. And there's actually one that Ms. Ferguson actually posted that I really like, and I think we're doing a service by not doing it, but there is no way that this is farming. And there's every one that I saw, there's gravel, there's roads, all through them. You know, they're 3 to 6 foot concrete down in the ground. You go over to Turkey Foot, you're going to see where they've completely taken off the topsoil. I mean, it's grading.
And subsoil.
And subsoil, which is going to create runoff issues, and that was what kind of brought this to my attention. Was I've got a large one possibly in District 4, and the neighbors around it are really concerned. Runoff. Your sister knows about runoff. You know, she's right across the street from me, and since they built those houses on Goggin, she's got flooding that goes through her backyard all the time that we've never been able to fix, and those are just houses. When they start tearing up the land and putting berms or whatever, that's what I'm saying. If it's industrial, we got to zone it industrial, and I'm sorry if there's a high bar, but there's a reason. We're trying to protect the people around it, and so if you're going to do industrial things, it's important to do that.
I want to clarify one thing. I'm not fighting with you, but there are some uses we allow in industrial zone that are clearly, or in the ag zone, they're clearly industrial, right? And commercial. So we obviously allowed the distilled spirits to go in under the CUP.
And I was against it.
It's actually in our book as an
I
industrial
understand, I was
use,
against
so
it, though.
You gotta be careful about.
Because I gave the same argument
I know.
then.
But the use and the requirement are two different things. The use is clearly industrial. We allow some industrial uses. A rock quarry, we allow an airport, we allow a landfill, a transfer station, land farming, compost facility, a lot of stuff we put in the ag zone that you could say, well, that ought to be in the heavy industrial zone. So just to be clear, there are some things we allow. There are other things that have to exclusively be in a commercial zone industrial. We would allow a shooting range to be out in the county, but clearly it's a commercial use, right? You'd go, so the use and the designation of what district, they're really two different things. You gotta be careful with that. There's lots of things we allow. You can have all kinds of businesses out in the county. They're commercial, but without them in the ag zone.
But
this use
there's a difference
clearly,
between commercial and industrial, though.
yeah, and this use was clearly, the planning commission made a determination that the use is industrial, and that use should be located in industrial zone.
So the thing that I mentioned that Ann had posted out there that some places are doing, which I think it's amazing, is they're actually putting solar panels over parking lots.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got covered parking.
Yeah, but that's not a merchant electric. So all those pictures were not those facilities.
I understand.
Those are private, and you can do
I
those now.
understand, but it could be.
Well,
It should be.
Well, they
Put them
can't.
on top of buildings.
Well, they can't be, because under the federal code, you can't have customers and car parking in a merchant electric generating
I'm
facility.
sure that could get changed.
These are giant
Anyway.
power plants, like you said,
Yeah.
and they're restricted under the federal regulations with fencing and barbed wire and access.
So when somebody wants to come out and build a nuclear facility out in my district, we're just gonna allow it as a CUP because, you know.
No, if it's federal or state, it's exempt by
Well,
law.
I'm just,
We don't have any
No,
rules for that.
but I'm telling you,
say so.
it's a power plant. They're both power
I know.
facilities. and
But you
so-
can't do the parking lot option because those are private. Someone could do that today, build a parking lot, put the panels. But this type of facility, state law, that would not be permitted. Those aren't merchant electric generating facilities. Those are strictly regulated, like the judge said.
Splitting hairs on me, it could be, just like anything in law, can be changed and
Well-
amended based on new findings.
Well,
of
today, I'm
things.
not sure that they would allow, because these things are very restricted for access, and again, they gotta have chain link fence and barbed wire
Right.
under the state, federal laws. but-
That sure looks agricultural to me.
Well,
So-
I understand, but it's not
Don't
gonna
they have
allow.
to have access to a grid, to electric
It
grid?
has to have, there has to be a wholesale contract in place
Right,
to
because
sell
I
power.
mean, there's no sense of doing that if you haven't got,
Well,
It's
that's-
required.
that, yeah. So
That's
that's
what the
gonna
state-
limit.
We
that's
thought
gonna
3 years
limit-
ago we'd be talking about solar farms
That's
right
gonna
now.
limit a lot of your farms.
Well, here's what's interesting though.
I still think it's a
Well, here's
great
what's
idea.
interesting though, is there's two
Can't
facilities.
dictate what,
There's 4 substations, 5 in our county. Let's just start with that. What was discussed, Magistrate Short, is, you're right, there's only a handful of spots that we have substations, and they're gonna start with that and go from there. So a lot of this county won't be even in discussion.
But you can't say that, Steve, because
But
Turkey
That's
is
what
building their
I
own.
say. There's 2 facilities right now in the state where they're building new substations with the facility. So potentially, what really dictates where these are gonna be is where you have overhead power lines. It's where the power lines are, is where potentially we could have facilities where there's available land, and then possibly where there's substations. It's kind of a combination. And so right now, we potentially have 4 projects that's been discussed, all rumors, and funny enough, they're all within close proximity of a substation. Right.
And let's be honest, one of the ideas on the CUP is so we can go back to agricultural. This land will never go back to agricultural. Never. It's they're taking off all the good soil. I mean, I think I was on the phone with Ann when I was driving down to Florida, and there was this big, huge solar plant along the road, and I went to actually pull it up on Google Maps just to kind of get a screenshot to see how big it actually was. And it actually wasn't even on Google Maps anymore. I mean, it was still an old picture. This is nothing but trees, and so I couldn't even get a picture of it. But I mean, you're going to change the landscape, and
Well,
That-
I guess my
that's a-
point is the landscape is changing, and it's changing for the farmers. And, you know, we've got to appreciate the farmers need to have some viable options to do with their land. And if you want to farm the land, then buy the land and farm.
but it's
the
not for
land.
sale. That's the thing.
But
The land's not going to be for sale. It's going to be locked up in a 30-year lease, so nobody's going to be able to farm that.
yeah.
And then we're going to be more reliant on other places to get our food.
So I think the
I
compromise is to me is not having the flume requirement, not putting that bar in there, and continuing with the site development plan, which is still a high bar. And it still is a tough process, and it's not, you know, and that's where we can control what these look like and feel like. Yes, they're industrial plants. I get that. I understand that. I think everybody gets and understands that. But I think that gives us more of a community stamp on these developments.
That's why you guys get to make the final decision. To Magistrate Short's point, there's a lot of moving parts here. And some of those issues, we got into all these kind of philosophical judgment, green energy. But at the end of the day, what we're trying to stick to are just some quantifiable rules. 100-foot setback, we can figure that out, right? 750-foot setback from a church. All those rules were in all the proposals. We think are the safeguards that are there. Whether you guys end up with the Planning Commission's recommendation or take it to a different place, I think we would be concerned that the other rules are kind of the big deal breakers, because that's how we're going to catch landscaping and runoff and drainage.
And that's what I think. I think those rules are all in there, and they're good, and they're solid.
And then there's the extra protection of the zone change.
Right. That's the part that I disagree with.
Landed with. And
Well, you know, Steve, I don't know how many of y'all been raised on a farm. I was raised on a farm. It was hard for a farm to make enough money to survive. It's the same way today too, unless you're a big farm where you can raise soybeans and all that stuff. But I know my dad, if he's still living, if he had access to do a solar farm and he had access to a grid, I know definitely he would be trying to do it, because there's got to be a way to help these farmers pay for the property.
Okay.
What's happened to this is a lot of kids has taken, you know, a lot of the older people's died off. So the kids has inherited this. So that's where a lot of this is coming from, is the kids is trying to make some way to make money. If they can't, they're going to sell it. So
yeah, and I'll tell you what's interesting. We had a lot of debate about. We had a couple farmers show up and make that argument. Very well spoken. The Spoonamore farmers represented. But at the end of the day, the Planning Commission is not any kind of that economic development part of that. You know, even if we had a factory coming tomorrow and they were going to create jobs and generate thousands of dollars for the county, our decisions are kind of. We're not down that lane. We're focused on the land use and how it fits the zoning verbiage under state law. But obviously you all as a fiscal court, that's why you guys are the fiscal court. Ultimately, you guys got to consider all these different factors on a project when it comes to you. And you sounds like you are. But we didn't go down kind of that road very much, but we heard testimony. It's logged in our minutes, hours of that style of testimony about farming income substitution options. They're a lot like when we had solar or cell towers coming back in the day. You know, farmers getting opportunities to do some different things with their land. And then ultimately, you know, farmland sometimes turns into subdivisions or shopping centers and other things. So,
to me, and I want to study it more, but to me, the designation of it being industrial legitimizes the process. And I'm hearing that if the other process of the ag/conditional use permit were to go into effect by our actions, we're probably doing no favor to that very farmer who wants to change his or her land because of the lengthy litigations that could be levied from either side.
let me clarify. None of our options included this conditional use. Now, if you guys go down that road, that's up to you all. But our
Well, that's
options.
what I'm hearing from this side.
No, our options were industrial zoning, which means, again, there could be land already zoned industrial. We're just speculating, but there's not, as far as we know. But again, there could be new substations. But let's just say this is all farmland zoned ag. All those projects would have to go through a zone change request, which is evaluated in the state law under 3 different options, including the comprehensive plan compliance and the future land use map would be involved. But there'd be a public hearing on the front end and a site plan hearing on the back end. The other option we had was allowing it to stay in the ag zone with these rules, which means 1 public hearing, but you would take one of those steps out, which is not where the Planning Commission ended up landing. So the farmers were kind of lobbying for that because it took one of those public hearings out of play, what they thought was a
So
hard
you just
one.
go straight to the site plan
Go straight to the site plan.
process.
Help me understand, because you and I talked a couple Saturdays ago at length about the Homeland Security, because I think I really do understand why Homeland Security is concerned about power.
It's the federal, Judge, you have to help me on that. It's the federal, and I don't know.
There's the Regulatory Commission, and that's why you have an 8-foot double barbed wire fence around the perimeter of the property.
Yeah.
is so that is a secure transmission site to the transfer stations
Yeah.
that are close by, because it is sold and augmented throughout the grid. From here, it can support locally, and it can also go to a grid service at somewhere else in the country. So there's going to be these everywhere. And what the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission does is direct those supply chains out of these solar generating facilities to different areas as they have flux in the electrical provision from each area. And, you know, like Brown might be down because the water's down there, their steam is down. And, you know, they have a 10-acre solar demonstration project out there they've had all kinds of issues with.
Yeah.
But what they're doing is they're bringing collaboratively different aspects of energy generation, and when there's a slowdown for different environmental reasons, then these others are sold and picked up that slack around the country to level out the distribution.
So you gotta look at the substation or the energy plant. It's just an extension of that energy provider, and it has to meet all the security and federal requirements, just like the substation does or the actual power plant does. It's just an extension of that. Again, that's why this was more for discussion today.
I don't know if we need to take a vote today, but
Are we discussing it or no, or what?
Well, my goal was to give you the summary and present it to y'all, then you all take it where you want to. You could study on it longer. You guys could head down the road to a different one.
This is serious, and this requires you really knowing a whole lot more. That's why I spent a lot of time in you listening to you all.
But you got the moratorium getting ready to expire on you guys. That was why we kind of ran this too long, probably under the clock, because you guys extended the moratorium till May 1st. So you kind of got that happening. We just were trying to track the legislation and get that behind us. We took 3 months to really work through this, but that's another issue you guys may want to consider if you guys decide to discuss it for, let's say, the next 2 months. You may want to think about your moratorium.
I don't really need that long, but you need to really know what we're voting on.
yeah, I don't think I would comfortably making a vote today. I think we need to examine a whole lot more information. This recent submission by the Smart Growth Group, some other things. There's a lot more that we need to know before we make a decision now, because I lean toward some aspects of this recommendation, and there's some that I don't. I agree more with where Magistrate Gay is going on his presentation and issues on this, but I think we just need to sit through and discuss it more at length. What I want you all to know, it doesn't matter to certain governmental entities out there what it's zoned, okay? Because the PVA in every state, in this county, will assess the improved land, agricultural land, at its commercial value once it changes the intent from agriculture to something else, from a tax base. So that's going to happen irregardless of the zoning. And I just want to highlight that and bring that out. That's going to be there anyway.
And I want to finish with, my goal is to bring you the Planning Commission's recommendation. I don't want to be an influence on this, so I would hope you guys study this, maybe come back. We'd be glad to participate, but what the P&Z would like to do now is just step back, let you all make a decision, kind of like what happened in Mercer County, either to concur with it, reject it, tell us start again, or change it. And whatever you all end up doing, we're fine with, because that's your authority, and we respect that you guys can wordsmith a text amendment. You could change every paragraph. You could substitute a whole new document if you chose to, and that's not going to hurt our feelings, because this is the process that's built for a text amendment. We've sent you a recommendation after 8+ hours of testimony, and you take it where you want to, and we'll be glad to assist you, but we really don't want to kind of interfere with your all's deliberation on this stuff. Like the judge said, if you got other ordinances you prefer from another county, you take it where you need to take it. Eventually we got to put whatever happens in the zoning ordinance and, format it, streamline it, put it into effect. So we're good with wherever y'all go with it.
Well, I would agree with us taking more time on it and you know, if we need to table it or whatever officially we need to do, or just come back at the next meeting and discuss it.
Judge, I'll make the motion to table it for further study, if that's would be what you need at this point, sir.
That's fine. I think we need more time to sit together and discuss, and we can invite whoever
Right.
that it helps to inform us better of the scope of variances, or not variances, but of it's situations we need to entertain to make a decision.
We need to make an informed decision.
I'll second
That
that.
takes
And
some time.
I would encourage everyone to speak to our representatives on the Planning and Zoning Board to see how they voted and why, and all the information they had.
Yeah, absolutely.
Chris, I kind of forget you're there since I've got to fight with this petition. You know, I mean, shoot it straight. Is there any validity to my concerns about, you know, our planning and zoning being weakened because of allowing us to pick, you know, what we allow, what industrial things we allow to happen in ag zones, or what do you think?
I mean, yeah, I mean, there's a possibility as to that. We can make exceptions or whatever, I mean, it's,
Because the next thing that comes through could very easily challenge us and say, well, you allowed it for this, it's for the same exact thing, why aren't you allowing us? And
The
then
very
we're
issue
forced.
that Magistrate Cullen is bringing up happened in Louisville at Hurstburn Lane and Shelbyville Road. And if you can picture that in your mind, 30 years ago, it was growing. Today, it's a logjam of traffic. But a farmer was X'd out. He didn't have the firepower in his litigation. He failed, and 2 years later, the change that he wanted to do to earn for his family went through. So yes, I totally agree with both you and Magistrate Cullen that a lot of litigation could be thrown around if we don't handle this properly.
Like, so if someone builds a substation on the property, how does that get handled?
Depends who owns it. So anything that's KU, TVA, government, state of Kentucky, exempt. So if this is a design build situation where the substation's coming in and I'm the developer, I'm whoever Turkey Creek is over there, and I'm gonna own the panels and all that land, but we're gonna build a substation that we're basically gonna then give to KU, it's exempt. It's not actually part of the local laws. We don't regulate state government or federal government. So it really comes down to who owns what. What we're allowed to regulate in the state law is the private property wholesale lease owner.
Judge, it's a motion on the
Yep,
floor.
all right.
I'll second it.
There is a motion made by Magistrate Kaywood and seconded by Magistrate Short
So
to
in
table.
discussion real quick though, I do want to, because again, back to the site development plan process, which is what I'm advocating for, and I think still does all the things that we want to do as a community. Because I want to read just in the short paragraph of C here in this recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Commission. The site development plan application and approval is required for any proposed merchant electric generating facilities. In addition to the site development plan requirement outlined in Article 3, Section 3.11.5, the Planning Commission shall consider the impact of the proposed facility upon surrounding properties and institute other site design measures so that the character of the area is protected.
That was an extra sentence. That was an extra sentence.
So there still is
other stuff.
Community protection in this process, and that's the point that I want to emphasize as we go in this discussion.
Now that's a legal sentence our attorney helped us put in there, because the site development plan, when you go to Article 3 that you just heard, 311.5, again, it's A through double L, item, 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 item. But if a developer complies with every item, like let's say a drainage plan, and he turns in a drainage plan that has all the stuff that goes in the drainage plan, planning commission really can't deny that if all the things have been put in the engineering document that are required. The reason that sentence was added, there was a lot of discussion, what if we want to add other conditions? And what if we want to do other things beyond the site plan? And our attorney came up with this, and so that gives us a little extra, A through double L. Well, now there's another item, which is undefined. It lets the planning commission look at each one case by case. Public hearing, people come in, and if there's some other issue that's not in our checklist, it lets us consider that and make that an additional condition. So that language was added, but the site plan is spelled out in Article 3 of the zoning ordinance. You can pull it at 311-5. It's a but it's engineering, and it's back-end engineering, but it is a checklist. So it's hard to deny a site plan if everything's done properly. That gives us a little extra foothold for other things.
All right, we can talk about this till the cows come home, guys.
That's true.
Shut it off. Let's call for a vote to table it. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Thank you.
I'd like to point out, like, you're tabling it, but like Steve said, the moratorium ends May 1, so that's something you might need to vote.
You want to extend it?
Now to extend that unless you're going to get to the
I make a
next
motion that we extend the moratorium until July 15th.
2023?
Yes.
No. 2022.
All right, there's a motion to extend it to July 15th, 2022. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second.
That doesn't mean, excuse me.
No, that doesn't mean, we can review and take action before that.
Before, that's the
Yes.
that's the goal line.
We could act
On
before.
this, we can go ahead.
In fact, we should and need to.
Yes,
Right.
that's why we're extending this.
Yes.
But
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so,
And
any
it
other
does not
discussion?
preclude an act.
No. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign, motion carries to the January to extend till July 15th, 2022. All right. Next, we have Jailer Wofford on the agenda.
Good morning.
Morning.
Kind of give you our totals.
is it still morning?
Yeah, well, I guess, I don't know at this point. So our totals for today is 181, Department of Corrections 112, Boyle is 38, Mercer's 27, and I'm holding 4 for other counties. And, you know, I'm gonna have to take my hat off to our county attorney. He does a great job. If the men and women coming in need treatment, he's making sure they receive treatment. If they need mental health services that we can't provide, he's making sure. So he's doing a great job of keeping those Boyle numbers down. Also, I'm going to be housing one for Nelson County. We kind of have a gentleman's agreement. They had an inmate that needed to be housed elsewhere. So they are going to cover the medical costs and any transportation. In the future, if we have one that maybe needs to be housed in a different facility, they will reciprocate with us. So we've kind of worked out agreements, so I just want to give you a heads up on that. Also, on Friday, we'll be having our Good Friday services starting at noon. We have several local pastors coming in providing services for the inmates. You all are welcome, Fiscal Court's welcome to come out. Also, we're going to be rebuilding our health care. Talked to you all in the past about some of the issues. So this Thursday, we're having our joint jail committee in Mercer County at 10. If you all would like to attend that, we're going to have several companies providing bids.
I'd recommend that you do if you have availability.
It's going to be, so hopefully we can save us some money. I know the judge and his staff has been working with me to provide a 340B plan for medication, which is something that would save the jail and the county a lot of money if this goes through. So they've set up meetings, we're working with the hospital. And basically the 340B is we get the medication prices that the government, what the federal government sets, their pricing. Yep.
I'd just like to say for the record that with Missy Galloway's expertise and experience over the years, she has added greatly to that process.
Yes, she has.
Absolutely.
She has. And also, Master Ellis and Master Gay, if we can move our committee meeting up, we're going to have a lot of things moving really fast. So I'll email you today or tomorrow, and we'll see if we can get a time to go ahead and have a committee meeting, because I'm going to have some other changes coming up, and I want to make sure you all are up on that. Also on the updates, I received a message from the Kentucky Jailers Association, and the governor did sign off on House Bill 590, which is basically affects how we bill inmates, which has caused a lot of problems. So starting July 1, I think, that'll take effect, and we can go back to billing as we were before, prior to the Supreme Court or the court ruling. So which is good news for us, because we've lost a lot of money that we can't go back and get. But the reason I'm here today is to ask for or request the fiscal court approve a home incarceration ordinance. When we were looking up and doing the research on this, the governing body of the county, which fiscal court, has to set an ordinance or pass an ordinance for us to be able to provide this service. This service will begin hopefully July 1, and then next month or June we'll be we'll be setting out the RFPs for companies to bid on and selecting which company we go with. But we need to have an ordinance in place before we can move forward.
I move
So
that we
moved.
approve, ordinance number 24.0, an ordinance establishing a home incarceration program for the Boyle County Detention Center.
Second.
Okay, so the motion to approve the ordinance is made by Magistrate and seconded by Magistrate Ellis. We can take discussion. I think this is an excellent step forward to allow those potential for those inmates that are not violent in their incarceration to be considered by the court, and it rests there. We all know that, but it gives options that we haven't had previously.
Well, what this does, it keeps somebody from losing their job.
Right.
Because they're incarcerated and going backwards. Because, you know, working as a deputy sheriff, and I'm sure our county attorney would probably, you know, this paper will lay there, an affidavit will lay there and let you write anything on it that you want. It doesn't have to necessarily be true. I mean, that's why we have the process we have, but this could jam somebody up, you know, just because somebody's trying to do something out of spite to hurt them. And, you know, they just got to go through this lengthy process of going to court and being found, you know, not guilty. But, you know, this will help keep people working and not losing their job. And I think it'll be very, very important to our community. And I also want to say thank you to Julie Wagner, because she's worked really hard on putting this RFP, helping put the RFP together and the ordinance and doing the research and everything on it. So I'm going to make sure.
Is there any other discussions?
Our county attorney okay with this?
I am, and actually, I've had a discussion with Ted Dean, because I want to make sure that we're both on board. I mean, there was an issue before where it basically said that, like, you guys decide who's going to be eligible for the home incarceration, who's not, and, you know, I don't think that you want to come in here every day and evaluate somebody to determine that. I think, you know, we're elected, and, you know, as county attorneys, even, you know, Richie Bottoms as the Commonwealth attorney, and I would hope that you would have faith in us, that we would, you know, choose the right persons that we feel would be able, who would be eligible to participate in this. So that part got changed where it's at our discretion, the prosecutor's discretion. I think that's the best.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
I pushed for this 2 years ago, so I'm glad to see it's finally coming through.
Okay, any more discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
And then also,
Just for the record,
Yes, sir.
this was pushed years and years ago. The technology was not there to really make it work.
Well, agreed,
Yeah.
and not that Chris fought me on it before, but when I talked about it, the cost was just really high.
It was high.
It was
and
high.
The technology really didn't get to the problem. It
Right,
was too many.
but this is a credit to these conferences that we go to.
It's been discussed for years.
I got to see, and other counties were doing it for, you know, $2-5 a day, and I'm like, well, that's nothing compared to what we pay, you know, to house them each day. So
I think it speaks very well of this court that at the earliest opportunity that technology would allow us moving forward with the right response to this opportunity is now, and it had been in the past.
And as Brian mentioned, it doesn't jeopardize that gentleman or lady's job situation, and
It has lots of other potential
keeps the
benefits to
family
our.
situation.
I was gonna say,
good, too.
or even more important, just keeping the family together. I mean, that's hard on the family when they're split up, and I mean, there's some people, unfortunately, that are arrested and put in jail for a while that are found innocent, you know, and just to break up that family for that long period. I mean,
You know, I think those who hire are more pliable about and will work with this kind of situation now than they were years ago too.
No question about that.
the stigma is
That
not there.
stigma has changed, yes. So,
Short workforce.
Yeah. and it's changing, and I think it'll continue to evolve as we go forward, but, you know, I think our community is on the fiscal court. You know, I have to take my hat off to you all, because you all are forward thinking on this, and, you know, when I meet with other jailers and some of the relationships they have with their fiscal courts is not good, and I have a good one, and, you know, this is something I appreciate you all taking a serious look and willing to take the chance and give these folks the opportunity to stay a viable part of our community.
I mean, I would ask that today be considered the first reading of ordinance number 241.0.
Yes.
The court is in agreement with that?
Yeah, that would be the motion, sorry, the first reading.
Okay.
And then one thing, don't forget, I will send a new flyer up that maybe if Missy wouldn't care to make sure you all get, but we're going to be doing the training out at the fire station, Boyle County Fire Department headquarters, on the mental health for trauma for first responders. And Mike, I would love if you all could attend. You need to let me know because lunch and stuff's going to be provided, so I need to make sure we have a good count for that. But Tracy Reed from KCO is going to be providing the training. I don't have it in front of me, Judge. I'll get the flyer back up here. And then, of course, we're doing this along with ASAP is helping sponsor this. So the jail and ASAP is doing this. So I'll get up, but I'd love to see you all there because it'll give you a better idea of what fire, or EMS, you know, sheriff's department, police, the jail, or, you know, the staff have to deal with. You know, they see things that they never unsee. So it'll be good training.
It's May 5th at 10 a.m. to 12 noon.
And then I think 9:30 there's going to be some breakfast, kind of get there and kind of a mix and mingle.
Could you send us an email on that?
Yeah.
We'll get it out to everybody.
Okay.
Did I hear something about a chili cook-off that you're judging?
I didn't hear that one yet.
It's Cinco de Mayo. So
Listen, I've had stomach bug, and eating's the last thing on my mind. It's been
I'm not listening to an old episode of Uncommon.
Yeah, we're gonna, actually, I think we're gonna try to do one new episode this week or next week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, next we have our HR director, Mr. Steve Griffin.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Almost good afternoon, but.
Yeah, we're working on it.
Yeah, I know, y'all are. I'll be as quick as I can.
Jamie's fault.
I'm sorry?
It's all Jamie's fault.
Oh, yeah.
City boy.
You've got a couple things you've got in your packet. One is we've issued an on-call policy for on-call with two aspects of it. One, the first aspect is where federal regulations require us to pay, in certain circumstances, someone who's on call. I've tried to describe that in the first part. We don't have a lot of that, of where we're really restricted in our work and where they have to be on site or something and not working, but just while we were doing that, we wanted to put that in the policy for those cases where those happen. The second one is something we've been doing for years, apparently, and over at the kennel and or the animal shelter, and where we have two employees who are on standby, but not really restricted in their activities, so we're not required to pay them, okay? But apparently, we promised we would pay them at some point, so I put that into effect as well, and we go back, I think I post-dated it, I guess that's the right word, back into the fiscal year, because apparently we're supposed to be paying them up till that point or something, so are there any questions about that policy? So you're saying we're not supposed to be paying them?
We don't require to. We choose to pay.
We chose to pay.
Yeah, all right.
That's why there's two separate aspects of the on-call policy. One is required, one is our own volition to do.
I think the court, most of the court can remember, this was a decision that was made a year ago, and as it relates to animal control, because we asked them to be on call, and in order to do that, the right thing to do is to compensate them for that, because we are going to, by policy, restrict them to some degree on what they can and can't do while they're on call.
Right. But it's not as restrictive enough where we have to pay them. So if they couldn't leave town, had to be home within, had to be at work within 5-10 minutes or something, that's really restrictive. They've got time to get in there. They can go to Harrisburg if they want to and be back. So
The second policy we put into effect was for, really affects right now Public Works. And this came up again also, I guess, at the beginning of the calendar year regarding a couple certifications, one for Roadmaster and one for Road Scholar at Public Works. And we've implemented, if it's approved by the court, to those people who have those certifications to add $1 an hour per hour onto their wages for each of the certifications. And there's 3 people who have the certifications, who have both certifications. So both of those, or all 3 of those people will receive $2 more per hour on their hourly rate. And that's effective also on January 1st, if we can, because I think that was when they really got it. We just couldn't have the mechanisms in gear to get that effective. So
do you need us to vote on these things individually, or?
I'm not sure how that works. I'm still learning fiscal court, okay?
If you figure it out, let us know.
Why don't we do them individually,
So I'll make a motion on the on-call.
Yeah, the on-call remuneration, the motion is made, and Magistrate Cullen, second, Magistrate Gay. Discussion.
Am I correct in assuming that in these 95 hours that they're going through the 2 programs, they're
No,
on?
no, this is on-call.
We're doing the on-call.
All right, then let's go on the on-call hours. They're on the clock, and we're paying them when they're being trained.
The on-call people?
No, they're not being trained. Don't confuse the issues here.
That's what we're voting on 2. We went back to
different
the
things.
on-call, and then we'll come back to
the on-call animal control.
Animal control.
Animal control
But you
excuse
still
me. Okay,
passed
my bad.
anyway.
after hours,
All right.
okay?
Yes.
All right, everybody understood? Any more discussion on the first one? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I'll make the motion on the.
Hold on, we didn't get opposed.
Okay.
Opposed? Like sign.
Nah.
Motion carries.
I'll make the motion on the Public Works Roadmaster.
Now, this is where you can have to.
Yeah.
Second.
Okay, motion is made by Magistrate Gay, second by Magistrate Short.
The gentleman we
Now-
had in here a couple weeks ago, I assume that both of them, or all 3 of them have been on both programs, put in 95 hours. I assume we paid them when they were getting trained.
If they were on work site, I'm not sure how they work.
Yes, they were paid when they were doing work
hours, yes.
Okay.
They went during work hours.
Okay,
This happened before me, so I'm not really
Okay.
sure.
thank you.
They were
And
paid.
for the future, it'd be the same thing,
That
obviously.
only applies so long, you know you do.
But they got a few more months.
Well, technically, he just got in office.
Yeah.
Well, you're not considering this as extra pay, it's not.
Yes, it is.
How can it be when they doing it on their own, not their own time, but our time? Are you paying them twice?
No,
We're not paying them an
What we're
hourly
doing
rate
for-
price. We're just adding these $2 per hour.
we're giving them a raise
to
for
their-
getting
One service
Okay,
certified.
I'm talking something totally different.
Okay.
Okay, this is recognition.
I'm talking
of
about
over and
what he
above.
said, the 95 hours that took to get this certification, they did it during
clock.
work hours. So
Yes, apparently so.
it was, no extra money is what I'm saying there.
Not extra money.
Not until they get their.
Once
the
they get the
post.
Yeah, right,
certification.
that's
Exactly.
Let's
That's when they
let's
get the
clarify
extra
it,
money.
okay.
Yes, I'm sorry. I should have been more clear about that.
No, I didn't hear it.
Are you clear? There wasn't anything extra while they were going through the 95 hours of training.
Now, that was all done before January 1.
Yeah, okay,
So-
we knew, we do that, so.
Same for the future.
Other questions? All right, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign, motion carries. All right, next, Steve.
The diesel mechanic, just an update on that, we posted it on Indeed. We've got some applications. We haven't reviewed them yet, just getting them, they're accumulating right now, and so more to come on that, so.
I'll
And
make a
then,
motion, we approve.
Second.
Motion's been approved. Now,
okay.
You might want to speed it up.
I tried.
I don't know that we necessarily need that for a,
No, that was for the
an
comp time. I was,
advertisement.
we were racing ahead for a comp time.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Thank you.
That's all done.
Okay.
Here. This is for CASA, to go to your wife, please.
This is not for me though, right?
No.
Steve, you got the comp time agreement, we'll present, we got that, huh?
Yeah, that's what we did.
Oh,
They
that,
made the
oh,
motion.
it
Yeah, I made the
was
motion.
on the
Raise on.
Need a second before.
Jamie's just
motion.
too fast.
Okay. All right, so.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you all.
And for those of you that are not, have not made up your mind to go to CASA, there's the gala on the 30th, I think it is. No, the 30th
I'm
is
terrible with dates.
you. I think it's the 29th, April
It's the
29th.
29th.
29.
Yeah, so make sure you get your checks over to Stephanie, who can collect them, but go out to the event and spend a lot of money.
Okay, all those in favor of the motion to approve the comp time agreement, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign, motion carries. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
All right, Mike, you're up.
Good morning. Fiscal Court.
Morning.
Judge.
Stephanie, you have.
I have with me today Elijah Cochran. He's not on the agenda to be hired, but I'll have him on the agenda for the next fiscal court meeting. He's one of our part-time employees. He's currently an EMT. He's actually in AEMT school, so he's getting that certification. So I'll put him on the next fiscal court meeting to be hired, but I just wanted to give you a chance to
Hold on, what do you
say
need?
hi to him. Sorry?
To be hired?
Yeah, we'll do it at the next meeting.
Let's hire him now.
Well, I mean, that's fine too. But
I can't wait 2 weeks. He might go somewhere else.
well, I mean, he's currently working, so he has to give his 2-week notice and everything. So, but it's up to you. It's up to the. I'll leave it.
You
Well,
present it
yeah.
on. We'll do it next time.
I just wanted a meeting. I just
Well,
wanted you to
yeah, it's
meet
not
him.
on the agenda, so
Yeah,
we'll
but
do
he's
it
giving
next
somebody
time.
2 weeks
You're
notice.
not going anywhere, are you?
Till then anyway.
Okay, good.
Hopefully someone else doesn't hire him before us.
He's patiently sat through.
John and I sat through a conversation this morning about how quick they're going.
Well, he's currently a part-time employee, so he can go ahead and work. He just he'll just be promoted to full-time.
All right, trying to help you out.
I appreciate it.
I don't want to get any late night calls again.
First thing on the agenda is for the integrated CAD system. This is something I've been working on for a long time. It should be in your packet. The integrated CAD system allows us to be able to see a lot of things from our ambulances. And we can see the mapping. We can see any notes in there that the dispatchers may make as far as the run or any safety issues and things like that. So it's going to be tremendously helpful for us to be able to have inside the ambulance. So it is I did send Missy and County Chris the sole source letter, but basically what I'm being told from GeoConnects, who's with, is that it will dispatch has GeoConnects CAD system. So the only one that'll work with that CAD system is the GeoConnect. So it's like trying to use a Ford part on a Chevrolet. There's no way you could use anything else with that CAD system. So does that make sense?
Yep.
And this was essentially with this CAD system that the city of Danville uses in all their dispatch and first responders will greatly enhance the accuracy of our dispatch locations where we go to.
Yeah.
And when you say notes, the important notes that could go in there to really give you people a heads up about things.
Yeah, sometimes we put safety alerts in CAD system. Like one that I remember that's been pretty recent is that this particular person keeps a gun propped up beside the door. So just some sort of long rifle. So that's good to know before you're going in the house. It's good to be able to see those things.
Every door.
That's what half the county.
Yeah.
Do we need a vote on this?
Yes.
Yes.
Make a motion.
Second.
Motion made with Magistrate and
This
seconded
was
by
budgeted,
Cullen
right?
Yes, sir. It is budgeted.
to approve the funding for the integrated CAD system from to work with dispatch. So
Is this no chance 911 funds can pay for this, or?
Not that I've been told no.
and it didn't for the city either.
Okay.
It didn't for the city either.
This is part of that sole source.
Yes.
Yes.
Email.
Yes.
Okay, sir.
Mike, you're sure this proposal's still good? It's dated September.
It is.
It's
It
still
is. I've
good,
been
though.
working with them.
Okay.
Anytime you implement technology, it's there's a lot of back and forth. So I just talked to him yesterday. So.
And there's no issues on the city side
No,
with implementing this?
we had a meeting with the city manager and he was good with it. The judge was there, so he was good with it.
All right. Any other discussions?
Nope.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you. The next agenda item is the ambulance bid spec that we did. There's several options there. There's 3 options basically, and it should be in your packet. Looks like this.
Yes.
The first one is for a Medics 2023. That's a Dodge truck. The delivery projection is in the 4th quarter of 2023. That's a projection. They're still telling me it's 2 years. So as far as we know, that's what they're telling us. The Demir's ambulance below that is a 2022. We could actually take delivery of that in October, but that obviously is problematic because of the election year and different things. And then we would actually have, you know, at least 3 ambulances in this calendar year. So it saves you some money, so there's some benefits, but it's a little more complicated as far as the 65% rule and all that. The last option is for the Ford F-450s. The delivery projection for that is basically a year later, October 2023. That's the projection, but they're saying basically 2 years.
So this is just what these are numbers that they've given us, but you know, say we get closer and for some reason prices go down, will we still pay this amount, or will we pay the? Yeah. And basically what they're doing is, we talked about it in fiscal court, that if we're able to order a truck now and get it 2 years later, that's probably a pretty good deal. But they're marking it up 24% just because that's what they're expecting it to cost and build that time with inflation and everything. So. Here's another side. We could also probably go the same route we went a couple of months ago.
Could potentially go that route.
If we need to next year, and these trucks are pushed out too far or whatever, we could possibly see about another demo vehicle available, because that seems to be available.
Well, I think the demos that they have for next year is on the list.
Okay.
So the 2 ambulances that they'll have as demos is on the list as option number 2 that you take delivery of in October.
October
of this year.
No, we can't do that.
No.
Because then we're going to, like we talked about, ruin our spacing out of vehicles. We'll have essentially possibly 5 vehicles.
I do think
and there's hoops you got to jump through to get to that point.
I do think there's a value in staggering the trucks, that way they all wear out at the same time and incur that cost. So I think that makes a lot of sense.
Knowing all the delays that are out there on all automobiles right now, I hate to say it this way, but can we exact a penalty from them if they're later than 2 years?
Yeah.
No, they won't. I don't. No, he told us that straight up.
We don't want to get.
We used to do that.
Exactly.
But they won't agree to that.
They'll find somebody else to take it at their price.
But then we've lost totally.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's out of their control just to be able to get the chassis. Because I think that's what the problem is. I mean, the box will be done. It's just the chassis is something that they can't control.
So what do you recommend?
What I recommend is the third option, the 2023 F450 6.7 Power Stroke V8 diesel 4-wheel drive.
Why not the first one?
Why not the first one? Because it matches the Demir's matches the brand that we have now, and if we hire a mechanic, we can actually.
Oh, that's right. We talked about that. Yeah, go ahead.
We talked about this in the committee meeting, but Demir's actually has a program to where you can send a mechanic to their little school or whatever it's called, and they'll actually pay you to do the warranty work on the ambulance.
It's $20,000 more money too.
Do what?
It's $20,000 more money too.
Now, I heard a little bit of this discussion this morning in your all's meeting before this, but it seems like, and I know you went through it some this morning, but I would just like to go over it again, is in the past, it seems like you've talked about favoring the gasoline engine over the diesel. Yeah. And so now why the switch?
Yeah. Well, when the trucks that we have now, they're the Chevrolets, they're on a 163 box, so it's a 163-inch box. That company, McCoy Miller, no longer exists. It's under the Rev Group, and that company doesn't exist anymore. So you could actually get a smaller box, but it's going to cost you more money. So this box that's here is 170. So you'd have to build a custom box, and it's going to cost you more money than it would just to go to 170. with the additional weight of the 170 box, the manufacturer recommendation is to go with the diesel over gas, which to my dismay, because
Look
I
at the difference
prefer
in the
gas.
price, gas to diesel right now.
Well, but I think one of the things that he talked about as well this morning is actually having our own mechanic on staff will help with making sure all of the
Oil
routine
changes,
maintenance
brakes.
and stuff like that is done
Basic.
ASAP.
Preventive maintenance.
Preventative maintenance will be huge with this, and that's kind of where we've gone down on the diesel road before. Maybe we pushed them a little too further or whatever because we couldn't get them in. So
It's something that you may not remember, Magistrate Kaywood might remember, but with this box, it is available to.
a little bit.
Sorry. I'm sorry. I'm
That's
talking
okay.
about-
Sidebar,
Go ahead,
we're
I'm
talking
sorry.
we're talking gas model.
Yeah, that was one of the questions I wanted to ask.
With this box, it would be available to be remounted, which we've done in the past.
Yeah.
You might remember that, which would save you a little bit of money on the next ambulance purchase that you got, because you would already have the shell of it, and they would just, we've done it before in the past. So.
But just on this is my question, I'm
Yes,
sorry
sir.
I was
No, that's
rude
okay.
and
No,
talking
that's fine.
behind you.
He's
there,
been
but-
that way all day.
That's fine.
The diesel, again, understand that my knowledge of a vehicle is where the fuel goes, and I try to make sure I put the right fuel in there. But is there concern about the operational cost of a diesel engine, and do you get more mileage out of a diesel versus, because I just see on the price board that diesel is always significantly higher than gas.
I mean, I do think you will get more mileage out of a diesel, just because, and especially with the weight of with this 170 size box.
I think he's talking per gallon.
I
I mean, miles you get per gallon. We know diesels are gonna run a lot longer than gasoline motor.
Right.
Well, the important thing is John's always brought up is the engine hours, not just the mileage, the idling hours.
Have we took in consideration the extra cost it's costing the county right now on this diesel fuel size right now?
A
So
dollar
that's
a gallon
something-
adds up pretty quick.
That's something definitely we're gonna have to look at this next budget.
That's what we have been.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's gotta be killing us now in this budget.
It is.
It is. A dollar a gallon, $1.25 a gallon is pretty significant, to tell you the truth.
If you go to Liberty, you can get it for $3.45
What, diesel?
right now. No, diesel's, almost just a little over $4.
Was 509 in I think it was Missouri.
And that doesn't make sense, does it?
No, it doesn't.
That
But
much cheaper there than
I
this.
guess the question I would have, and I am not a mechanic, but I'd wanna know with the hours times, not the run time, these vehicles never shut off, hardly ever shut off. Either go to get something to eat, they're running. They're running all the time.
Except when
And
they're
I don't-
parked at the,
Huh?
except when they're parked at your,
Right.
when they're parked over at the facility, they're not
When-
running.
when they're
plugged
rotated in and out of
Yeah,
shift.
Yeah, and you mainly run them just because you've got so much electronics going through there that
Yeah.
it's either plugged in at EMS or it's running.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and we have medications that have to be within a certain temperature.
Temperature, yeah. Oh, yeah, you gotta run it.
Well,
All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and, do we make a motion or anything?
no.
I'll make a
no,
motion, we go ahead and take the Demirs one and hope for the best.
Is that part of your motion?
That's part of mine. So,
What kind of motion is that?
started off with a prayer. I'm gonna include them all my vehicle purchases.
Yeah, this one is more expensive than the
I'm
Dodge.
well aware. But
And this will, and I guess that was the other question I had, and I'll second it and ask my question.
and then we discuss it.
Is, how would it, so this will be paid on delivery, right?
Yes, sir.
And so, by us making this a motion and approving it, it actually will go in the 22-23
Yes.
budget
Yes.
year.
Yes,
So,
You might not
okay.
get it till 24.
Right.
Right, which is why we're doing it, which is why we talked to them about it
Okay.
before.
Yeah, I know
Yeah,
that.
so I'm good
We had
with
to go
that.
ahead.
Yeah, exactly.
There's one more question.
Yes, sir.
By divine providence, something comes available. If we cancel, do they nullify our contract without penalty?
I would have to ask, I wouldn't know how to cancel a bid.
And we
Dwayne
talked-
may know, or the county.
That's
attorney,
going
but-
on with Ford right now on one of their new models.
Have you ever canceled a bid after you committed to buying
something?
We have an opportunity to buy one.
We
in
turned,
June.
well, we never did accept it. We had to turn bid down because they couldn't, as it turned out, could not meet the bid.
Yeah. Well, if we approve it today, we're stuck with it.
We're buying it, and we discussed this before, that most likely we could get rid of it. We could sell it to somebody else.
I have a feeling there's a market for it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I don't see why, I mean, if they tell you you're gonna get this by 23, the end of 23, and you don't get it, I don't see why you can't.
Well, I think that's why they put.
I don't
projection.
think, I think you'd be able to say, no, we don't want it.
That's my point earlier.
I think the only
And
problem
there's
is that
nothing they can
it's
do about it.
It's customized for us. This is we've given them specs on what we're looking for, correct?
Well, you gotta look at delivery time.
Well, I
too.
understand.
I wouldn't.
There would be no problem getting your money out of it.
I agree with you.
I'd have to look at the contract.
We're going down
We
the
might
rabbit
even
trail.
make money on it.
I know people who like
Theoretically.
buying or
You
house
also-
stuff, and they it's been taking a while for COVID, and then they it was $20,000, and they get a thing now. We're just ready $60,000, and they're like, well, I don't want it anymore.
Yeah.
But I've seen that a lot.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so, we have a motion, and we have a second to accept the Demir's price, so all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries, thank you.
Thank you, Judge. Appreciate you all.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I will.
All right, Dwayne, it looks like you're,
Bring
All right.
it back.
Sit back with
Bring
Mike.
it back.
You may want to look elsewhere. I tried to give you a job. He didn't want to hire you.
I appreciate it.
In the worries.
All right, I only have one item. We have a request from Jody Sharp to accept 2 streets or
I'll make a motion.
extension of 1.
A second.
And so I need to give you the details.
No,
Put in
we
your
don't have
motion.
for details.
Okay.
Steve done more set of details.
We are, he's requesting that we accept 641, this says for your benefit,
It's in our packet.
641.4 linear feet of the Hunt Farm Road, which is an additional part of that road. He is also requesting that we accept 715.8 feet of Patrum, P-A-T-R-U-M, Patrum Sisters Way. And these 2 roads are on a plat that's recorded in deed book 570, page 615 and 616, and then plat file 2166-B. I don't think in the past we've ever, and maybe we don't need to, I asked Chris about it, but I don't know that we've ever taken the action toward right-of-way, toward actually accepting the right-of-way. We've always accepted the roads, and I guess it's just assumed we accept the right-of-ways. So those right-of-ways are platted, they are deeded, they're deeded to the public,
And we maintain them.
and we maintain them, but we've never really, I don't know if we've ever officially taken ownership of that right-of-way in the past. Maybe we don't need to, we were just talking about it, and I don't know.
And we were talking about just putting that language in there too.
Yeah. And maybe we do this, we just add it, it makes it official.
Do you need me to
I
amend
wouldn't
my
hurt to put that
motion?
language in there.
I don't think it hurt to add that language in.
Well, who they gonna belong to then if y'all
Yeah,
don't take
right.
it?
I mean, we claim it as ours anyway, we just, I don't know that we've ever
They're the
officially ever.
government- They're the
taken that.
government's property and the dedication, but they don't get transferred until the government accepts finished infrastructure, but they can't belong to the developer once he's done. So unless there's an HOA or something. So that, in this case, there's no HOA, so. It's
See, if
assumed,
it's necessary, then say we.
well, it's assumed you guys are taking all the public infrastructure, which is right-of-way edge to right-of-way edge, including the roads, ditches, whatever else may be out there, I guess. Street signs, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
There's things that are off the pavement that potentially become the county's property.
All right, well, if you think.
Well, that's why he referenced the plat, but again, it's really, like Dwayne said, it's just not been
I think we just
discussed.
put in the minutes, I think it's, you know.
What do you want me to put in the minutes?
Just put, as referenced in deed book 570, pages 615 to 616.
And what might be good, because I've researched
And
these.
as shown on plat file 2166-B.
What might be helpful is if that plat was attached to whatever action, you guys maybe even highlighted the section of that subdivision. Because you're gonna take this subdivision in multiple sections over years. You you know, but Dwayne's got the plat there by reference, but,
Yeah.
you know exactly what portion that
I
you're
think
taking.
if you reference it
With the plat.
with the numbers,
Yeah.
then somebody can find it pretty,
Yeah, you
because
can
it's on
find it.
file back there.
So we're referencing deed book 570 with page 615, 16.
Yeah, that's where it lies.
Because he says the plat's actually copied in the deed book too.
Yeah, it's in the deed books and the
Reduced.
plat files.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2 versions.
Okay. And then Steve has sent us an email, I think he sent it to the judge, but sent us an email that they had reviewed it and everything was in order from their standpoint too, that's part of our procedure now in our new updated subdivision regulations. Yeah. All right.
Make a motion, second.
Ready to amend it?
Yeah.
Does he need to amend it, including right away from edge to edge?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I
All right.
refuse.
Motion was made by Magistrate Cullen, seconded by
Short.
Magistrate Short. Now we can discuss it.
We're terrible at that.
I know, but here we go. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign, motion carries. Thank you.
I'll win today.
Thank you.
That was the shortest.
Dwayne, you wanna say anything about yesterday?
I can't.
Now, this is not for me, but this.
Yes, it
No,
is
no,
too.
it
Yeah, it bails you out.
No.
We did spend a few hours yesterday morning putting mulch around numerous trees at Constitution Square. We had, I don't remember the exact number, we had 8 to 10 ladies from our
Yeah, they had a bunch
garden
of
club, our local garden club that came
What was that,
to help
rain?
us and did a wonderful job and instructed us well.
Well, but
And,
your drivers and your workmen did well too.
Yes, and our crew was there too. So we've got a little over half of the park finished. We still have the front half to put mulch around trees, and we'll get that the next time we get a dry day, and we'll finish that up. But it has certainly enhanced the appearance of our park on the part that we got finished. So if you have any questions, well, why didn't you do that? Well, it started raining at noon, so we got a good half day in. We'll get another day in, and we'll finish it up. So, but anyway, we appreciate their help, and maybe they have helped us in the past. We may be able to get them to help us with planting flowers. We've got
Let us know the date.
And we'll be doing that probably the 3rd week of May. I don't have a date set yet. We'll have to do that, coordinate that with the high school with Miss Kendrick out there. But we're looking forward to that day. That'll
I
be
go
fun.
by it every morning now.
Yeah. All right.
Very good, thank you. Thank you for that. All right, Chris, looks like you're up with,
Ethics ordinance,
Mhm.
first reading. Yes, Kay Schaller and the ethics committee has done a great job. Spent a lot of hours adding to our original ethics ordinance. Our original ethics ordinance was very bare bones. It really dealt with just like fair hand dealing with contracts and so forth, money exchanges of entering into contracts, like fiscal court members with people and so forth, so prohibiting things. So this is, I think, very comprehensive and good. The ordinance that you have before you, this is an ordinance establishing the code of ethics. We already had a code, so this would be an ordinance amending our code of ethics that we already have in place, amending that original ordinance. So I need to verify on that number, ordinance 280.2, if that's would still be the correct thing. That's one thing that we'll have to change, just in the title, an ordinance, an order amending.
What's the actual ordinance?
280.0.
Okay,
Point
280.
one. I'm sorry, point
So
0.
this is now
and then there was a point 1.
This is point 2,
addendum.
okay.
Yeah.
All right, so
give it
the
to me
number's
again.
correct, it's just, it's amending the ordinance.
I'll make that
Two.
motion to
Second.
approve the first reading of the ethics ordinance, and it is well done, so thank you.
Thank you.
30.
Discussion.
we have a motion to approve the first reading of the ordinance by Magistrate Gay and seconded by Magistrate Cullen. Now we can discuss.
There was a thing going on from the auditor's office down south in Kentucky involving their ethics of 2 officials. And I read that they had not met in 10 years.
Oh, my goodness. I'm
And-
not sure they had an ordinance either.
I don't believe
I
so.
don't
So,
think they did.
well done by our
Yeah.
ethics board for continuing to meet and also for putting in so much time and effort into this. So we appreciate it.
There was an issue, oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
There was a issue that I went back and forth with Kay, and I mean the statute is very specific, but it talks about candidates. You know how we all have to do our finance statement, and so candidates also have to as well. Which I don't know. I'm fine with that, but and that's the state law. But I don't know that we've ever. I don't know that we've ever done. I mean, did anybody who's a candidate when you did file one?
No.
Nope.
And
I did.
I don't know, I don't remember.
And like, I don't know like how you enforce it on somebody that's not really our employee. You know, it's the fiscal, this is our employee of the county yet, but and that's what the state law says, so I guess we gotta go by it, but I think that I found that a little odd.
Good deal. Good work. Thanks, Chris. Thanks. Okay. Appreciate it.
As Kay and I spoke earlier, let's hope we never have to use it.
That's the goal. That's the goal.
All right, any more discussion on the first reading? All those in favor of acknowledging passing the ordinance on the first reading, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign.
I'm gonna abstain because I have a lot of things that would keep us busy for a while, and I'll get with Julie and with Chris on those issues. I went over it this weekend again.
Okay.
Tom plans on getting in trouble.
All right, let's see.
We got one more thing, like I can't wait to tell it till after we go around, so. I got an email yesterday from Natalie Bronner. She's the Assistant Director, Division of Real Properties, Department of Facilities and Support Services, State, regarding the Crawford House, and she said, Chris, we received the paperwork back from Tourism Parks late last week, and I was able to walk the deed down, the deed of correction and survey the 7 residuals to finance today for execution. So thankfully, we now have all of the needed Commonwealth signatures. I will bring them to the Boyle County Courthouse tomorrow, which will be today. I hope to be there between 11:30 and 12:30. So.
That is so significant because several of us were planning to go to Frankfurt. It didn't get shaken loose, including the judge.
This is excellent.
So that's the first step, but you know, it's still their property, so you know, the next thing, you know, if say there was a bona fide purchaser or whatever, I mean, they still have to sell it to them. So.
Have you had the discussion that they're willing to de-accession it?
No, we're just baby steps. We got when we're getting this took
That's
forever.
4.5 years of baby steps.
Maybe your third
But this is a huge step.
We got this. We have this completed, so I
Yeah.
think that.
Thank you for that.
We need to be done in 20 minutes so we can meet that person.
Right.
Yeah, the whole court.
Let's vote.
All right.
So that's. I just wanted. I was
Good
excited.
news. All right.
No, we didn't.
No.
No, I meant on the ethics thing. We already voted on that first.
We did.
Yes,
Okay.
we
I
did.
abstained.
Yes.
Oh, that's right.
You've done passed.
Okay.
Hang in there. Put some caffeine in that.
Is that all you
That's
got?
actually all capital.
That's all I have.
Okay. Darlene, what you got for us?
Just super quick update. I talked to Springbrook last week, and they meet on Monday afternoons. So they were meeting last Monday to just start discussing how they're gonna proceed with us, get us a person that's gonna kinda oversee our project. I expect to hear from them today because they would've met again yesterday. I did get in contact with them, asking them for another names of a couple other counties, and they've sent preliminary paperwork that just needs to be filled out.
When can we start applying for a grant for this thing?
That's the hard part. I'm trying to find out exactly who in Frankfurt we need to talk to, because the grant money, I'm gonna talk to them too. The grant money for that, is a federal grant.
Okay.
So each of it's going,
So we need
it's
to get
getting all
started
separated
ASAP.
into the different states, and I just have to figure out exactly who in Frankfurt is
So-
overseeing this.
So maybe we speak with Guthrie for now to see if he can provide some insight if it's federal.
So, yes, we can
Comer.
do that. We can do that. his office, and I probably could back it up.
we
Hopefully
get-
it doesn't take too long, because if it does, then I have to back it up with information to Coleman's office also.
Yeah.
Just a quick question. Would Paula know the person's name that we would need to talk to?
From Springbrook.
I don't know. I was gonna,
I
mean,
I
I
figured she would.
I was
Yeah.
gonna
Yeah.
talk to them today.
They would
It's,
probably be the best one.
yeah, cause basically when they were letting us know, and I didn't realize it at the time, and I don't think we realized it till we actually saw the
Mm-hmm.
very long,
Wasn't-
no,
I
information.
think that she'll probably
Information
have
on
name.
the
I
Zoom
would think
meeting.
so.
Yeah, cause it was all federal talk, and it was very long and in depth, so.
Okay, wonderful.
But yeah, I'll be in touch with her and I'll ask her too.
Sounds
just in
good, thank
case.
you.
Yeah, it's a note from Mr. Edwards, Harold in Perryville about the Crawford House, so that's good.
I just wrote to him.
All right, okay, next we have, this is the first one, so we have district reports today, so.
And
we'll
committee
kinda
or
go
just
over-
district?
Huh?
District and committee or just district?
We normally do districts at the first meeting and. the
District and committee at the
Okay.
second.
All right.
So, you have anything else for us? Okay.
Happy Easter.
Easter, yeah, absolutely.
Master Gay.
Yeah, I would echo that sentiment. Happy Easter, Resurrection Sunday to everyone. Next Monday, the 18th of April, is the Pulse of the People for District 5 in the in Center Works, and I've invited the mayor and city manager to join us for that as well, since District 5 is all in the city. And so we want to hear from all of our people, and anybody that has any concerns or issues, the judge and I and everybody else is invited to join us. It's 11:30 to 1, so it's more of a lunch. Pulse of the People in Center Works, which is above the hub.
Third floor.
Third floor of the hub building. You enter from the side and up the elevator off of the 3rd Street side door and up the elevator from there to Center Works.
When's it gonna be?
It's on Monday,
The
April
18th.
18th.
Tax
So-
day.
Tax day.
Tax
So it's
day.
coming Monday from 11:30 to 1. And I plan on trying to have a light lunch there, or you can bring your own lunch. So it may be me making peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, and you can decide if you want crust.
As long as you
or
put
crust
jelly on it, we're good.
And chips and some cookies or something. That's the extent of my my cooking ability. So we'll figure something out. But that's
You need
the plan.
donations?
No, I'm good.
All right, anything else?
11:30?
11:30 to 1. That's it.
Look forward to it. We'll have a lot of people there, hopefully. Okay, that's short.
I'd also like to remind everybody, Easter Sunday, at the biggest church day most churches have is that
For the
day
year.
for the whole year. And I would, if you you don't have a place to go, you're welcome to come and visit us. But everybody, make plans to go that day if you can.
Very good, thank you.
What are you cooking?
Nothing. Hard-boiled eggs.
Rabbit.
Color.
Master Kaywood.
A couple of things that were in the County Line magazine that I had some questions on. The opioid settlement of $483 million comes to the state of Kentucky. Do we know how much it would come here? Any chance?
I don't think the Attorney General has presented that information yet.
I would suspect it might be soon, since we know how much is coming here. I don't know how it's determined, do you know?
I think it's a portion from what I read.
Is it?
By
I
population.
think I got something a long time ago and it had like percentages of how it'd be.
I think it would be based on your population.
Population and people who have overdosed. I mean, there's a lot of
Formula to it.
There's a formula to it.
And so then that question came to mind of what's the plan to use it here?
Say we really need to wait and see if we're gonna get
I
it.
don't-
And the criteria that they
There's
give us.
criteria, there's certain criteria, I think a good portion will probably go to ASAP.
Well, ASAP sent a priority list, I think, to the court at one time,
Yeah.
so I just wanna be sure we don't forget about that.
No, it has to go
That list,
for that area of concentration.
Maybe Shepherd's House.
Yep.
So, I will tell you that, and just being on the board, just so y'all know why I bring it up, they have been financed through the years a lot on a monthly basis from the tobacco settlement of years ago, and that's beginning to run very thin. So any help and consideration would be appreciated.
What are you talking about, ASAP?
Yeah, for ASAP.
Okay.
For their operation. And Kathy didn't work for free, but she didn't make much either. So there is some expense, and then they use it to help people go and get patients to sites and doctors and appointments and things like that. So they do have an expense. So anyway, want to bring that up. And then I noticed the workers' comp, we're gonna get a dividend, and I didn't know how that would be used also. That was also in the magazine, that's my source of information on it, and I thought Phil might be here, so I mean, but there's some money coming back from that, from their dividend, so we might be thinking of, I don't know how we might use it, maybe to supply it toward future, I don't know.
I think we've gotten that before, and it seems like it just goes back into the
General fund. Yeah, it does.
Does it go to general fund?
And that's a real benefit to the CAECO members that are as technically proficient in safety concerns throughout the year, which we are, and that in addition to the unemployment, the lack of mobility between unemployment and employment people. We don't have a lot of movement to that area. Helps saves us money.
But
on our
having a new HR person now will help maybe in getting those who are disabled to part-time anyway. That saves some money. And now Steve can help with that to be sure that's done efficiently. So
yeah,
that's all I have.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Yes, sir.
It's my understanding that today and this week is 911 National Dispatch honoring those folks day and week, and I don't think anybody else has talked about how we'll adjourn, certainly with respect to Easter, but also their lifeline to saving lives, the 911 dispatchers, and I'd recommend that we adjourn in honor of that National Day of Recognition. Secondly, birthplace of Kentucky, we did meet a week ago, and I think, Judge, you're going to be receiving an email about this, but they're wanting to come and talk to us about items like the use and perhaps rental of properties, including something distinct and perhaps separate for Grayson as a functional place for many things to be done, including licensing for wine or things like that. Secondly, we learned late last week that Boonesboro State Park has a phenomenal collection of fireplace iron that dates to about 1820 and predates 1800, and it's been warehoused for years. I included the judge on distribution. I think that, Jason, I included you as well. We're going to make a go for it. The Daughters of the American Revolution got 40 items, and they say that there are more than 40 more over there. And I'm willing to load up the truck if they're willing to give it to us. So thanks to Kim King, Representative Kim King in Mercer County, I've made connection on my end, just a lengthy phone message to the director down there yesterday, and hopefully we can supply some of the fireplaces on the Constitution Square. that will mean, and they'll require this, that we're gonna have to begin to work more on the security of those buildings than we have, and that's part of the discussion that the BOK committee wants to have with the judge, and perhaps come and make a presentation to us. Want to compliment Dwayne and his crew, because I know in my district, and we heard last week on the tonnage of fill that we've had for temporary potholes, but they've been doing a great job, most appreciated. Crawford House, I have on here, but I'm thrilled with that, and I have written, I don't know what Harold wrote to you all, but I've written and told him that the good news has come today, and now it's time to discuss deaccessioning that property so that we can see if it can be sold. I'm thrilled that in lengthy communications over the last couple of days with Jack Hendricks, he gave me the go-ahead to put a post on for the Veterans Park name processes. I'd had several inquiries in my district alone, and so I made a county-wide appeal to veterans and their families who want their names on there, because this is the perfect time of year. We had to wait until the threat of deep frost and freezes, but Jack is pleased. He liked what I put on last night, and I've already had well over 30 responses. I've put myself out there on my landline so that anybody in the county, any of your districts who wants to process and wants to follow through with the application, they can work through me or they can work through you. I'd be thrilled if they work through you. Great news. We have a new walkway set to open up thanks to the judges' negotiations with the state, and not only with the walkway, but the reconfiguration. If you'll remember the chaos that we were in 2.5 years ago, when they were going to be rerouting people in the biggest amoeba you ever saw for small roads and big tractor trailers. The bridge was completed for the October 159th celebration and commemoration of the battle, and now the walkway has cones in front of it, but it is complete and ready to go. One of the curious inquiries that I got was from a constituent and her mother, their mother's grandmother, concerned that the wide, long triangles that were bigger than I'm holding right now would be an invitation to kids to jump off into the very shallow water. I said when I was 8 years old, I would have either dared my buddies or done it myself. That is now taken care of. It was in the original plan, and vertical railings are now in place. And the judge and I talked about getting with the mayor and talking about the actual opening that we might do. But that is a huge improvement, because you had, just like our viaduct out here, you had no protections walking, or I've seen a little boy on a bicycle on the viaduct out over here, scared me to death, because you had no protection on the old bridge in Perryville, and now it's completely separated by 80 or 90 feet from the bridge. Thank you, that's it.
All right, very good, thank you, thank you.
Looks good.
It does. It really looks. I've seen a picture.
Very attractive.
Of the wall on the pedestrian bridge, and it really looks nice. Yes, sir, Master Cullen.
All right, I really don't have much today, so you guys are getting off easy. It's an Easter miracle. So, one thing I wanted to talk about, I recently was put on the board for a charity that's based out of Danville here. It's called Dream Flight Charities. Mission is basically to find underserved kids, young adults that have a passion for aviation, and to start pay for a portion of their flight training. And so I'm really excited about that. I think all you know, as a pilot, I'm very involved in aviation, and wishing I had, started flying a lot earlier in my life. So I'm very excited to be part of that. Anyone has any questions, you can reach out to me, but it's done really well. They've actually already put through 3 students that have all soloed. One actually had to wait to solo because they weren't 16. So, but they sped right through and were ready to solo prior to being 16. So look forward to seeing more things. I know the charities also raised a lot of money for. There was a group in Ukraine that were doing some missionary work and humanitarian work, and so money was raised for that as well. So I also am happy that my daughter Ava is here today. Ava has just graduated college out in Idaho, and very, very proud she did it in under 3 years. She worked her butt off.
Congratulations and welcome back.
When COVID hit, she actually drove back from Idaho by herself, it's a 2.5 day drive, and she drove back so that she could help her dad with the restaurant, and so while working full time at the restaurant, and then still going to school, so she managed to graduate early. And I'll mention that Ava is also going to be interning over at the sheriff's office, so you'll see her around for the next couple of months. So while she's looking to go to grad school, she's still trying to figure out where she's going to go for grad school, but she'll be here for a few months. So I'm very proud of her. And it was funny. The one thing Ava keeps talking about is she loves seeing all the green grass around here. And so we traveled a lot and went to some beautiful places, but there's nothing like home, and Kentucky's a beautiful place, and I'm just blessed that God placed me here. So
what will your work in graduate school be? Do you know yet?
I'm hoping criminology.
Wonderful. Yeah. You know Eastern, my
yes.
alma mater. We welcome you.
So yes, we would like her to be local, but she spent the last 3 years in Idaho in very cold areas, so I think she's looking to Florida at this point. So, and I think she kind of has earned it. So, but EKU is on her mind as well. So Cincinnati, but I'm still trying to talk her out of that one. So anyway, so that's all I have. Please spend this weekend with your family.
Yes.
And remember the Savior during this special time. So that's it.
Thank you. Tom, do you know the official name of the 911 dispatch? Is it Dispatch Appreciation Week?
I can find that, yeah.
I know that the court had decided earlier to discuss some of our appropriation submissions today. What would be the pleasure of the court to take a few minute break, like 15-minute break or so?
Yeah, that's on me.
And then reconvene.
That works.
So in that is on the clock. I don't necessarily.
So I kind of missed what you wanted to.
Do I need to adjourn
Yes.
fiscal court? I think I do.
Yep.
Yes.
Judge, if you want it beforehand, National Public Safety Telecommunications Week. National
There you go.
Public Safety Telecommunications Week, but it honors dispatchers.
No one's quicker on Facebook than Tom.
All right. What I'd like to do is adjourn today with that National Safety Telecommunications Week, which honors and our 911 dispatchers, not only in Boyle County but across this nation, because they do a tremendous job in helping first responders save lives each and every minute of the day somewhere. And we don't pay them enough respect for what they do, and this week is much deserved. I would also like to recognize the passing of one of our recent court bailiffs and court security members that has been in this courthouse for a long time, and I didn't realize until I looked at their obituary that he was a 1969 classmate of mine at Danville High School. But Mr. Philip Bruce Rousey passed away recently, and I would like to adjourn this session of court in memory and honor of his service to Boyle County and the performance of his duties as a bailiff and a member of court security here in this building. Along with some other things they did, but I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
and seconded. And all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. We stand adjourned.